Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good afternoon and welcome to Rugby Bash Legends in your living room with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness is Egg-Shaped, and we are in for game number 2, Ireland against England, and we have got two magnificent men to join us, both who have worn number 10. I'm not going to bore them with stories of me playing at number 10, back in the day when Scottish schoolboys were a team and I played for Scottish schools and we went down to Preston Grasshoppers, and opposite me wearing number 10 for England was Johnny Wilkinson. And then when we played against Ireland across in Ayr on the west coast of Scotland, Brian O'Driscoll was stood at number 13 playing against us. Since then, the three of us have gone on to win over 250 international caps, and we've got 4 Lions tours between us, but I do not like to brag. So we're joined by 2 quality international players, still carving it up, still got it, both awesome. Great to watch, great chat. I've enjoyed the backstage bit. I enjoyed meeting them last week when we did our little promos. So you are in for an absolute treat. If you are part of your club and you're watching, hopefully you've got your little club chat, WhatsApp going. Get some questions into these two as we go along. You can send those to the number that's on the screen. We've also got competitions. Send us pictures on Twitter at Rugby Bash with your setup. So let's see the big screen. Let's see the laptop with the legends on it. Let's see those snacks. Let's see the beer tower beginning to get bigger and bigger as we get closer to kickoff. Scotland have just carved it up against a pretty poor Italy, but this game is going to be tough to call, and there's a lot riding on it, a lot of pride for both teams. So you're not here just to listen to me. You're here for the legends, and we've got 2 number 10 legends for England, the magnificent Toby Flood from them up north, and then we've got our man in green, Ian Madigan. 2 magnificent men. Welcome, gentlemen. How are we today?
Very good, very good. Yeah, delighted to be on. Looking forward to the game. Looking forward to an Irish win.
Oh yes, it started already. What do you reckon of that, Toby?
I think it's a fair shout. He's wrong, but it's a fair shout. You got to believe, haven't you? You got to be positive these days. It's always nice, I think it'll be tight. I think it's going to be a really difficult one to call today. Ireland finding a little bit of form, and England recovering after sort of 2 games where their big men were absent.
What do you reckon, Ian? Ireland are ready for this, aren't they? England's a cup final for pretty much everybody.
Yeah, certainly. I think off the back of England's slow start, it's definitely tied in with the Saracens guys who are the spine of the team, not having got a whole lot of rugby under their belt. But I think the concern in Ireland is that they're going to be peaking for this Irish game. So look, we're fully aware of the threats that England pose. I think they're a side that probably have Ireland's number at the moment. The last few times that they've played Ireland, for me, it looks like they've sussed out a brand of rugby that's going to be successful for them. They look to overpower the Irish pack. We've seen it the last 2 or 3 games. So what I'm hoping to see from the Irish team today is, figuring out a way to take England on in a different way. Maybe not necessarily getting into an arm wrestle. Hopefully we see Ireland move the ball a bit. I'm sure we're going to see a big aerial contest again. So, no, look, I think we're in for a really exciting game.
What's that like for a 10, Ian, when you can see your forwards getting kind of dominated, a bit of overpowering? What do you do standing at number 10? Yeah,
look, it's really tough. You've much less time on the ball. The defensive line are playing on top of you. Your options are cut short. You can't spread the ball wide because you're coming up against a full defensive line. If you're trying to kick the ball in behind, generally you're going to have 2-3 guys in the backfield covering you off. So it can make for a very, very long day at out half if your pack are going backwards. And I think it's only the best 10s that can really figure out a way to win when that happens.
I love that. Ireland, it's always out half. It's always out half and out. Toby, what do you call the man that wears number 10?
Good, normally.
Yeah, we all know. The playmaker, the boss.
I'm just talking about us 3, obviously. No, I think... I don't know, mate. Is it first 5'8", second 5'8"? Should I go Kiwi? No, I think
no.
I'm only joking. No, just number 10, mate. Simple. I've only just learned to count to 23, so we'll just try getting.
So, do you reckon aerial game is that a game that England can win?
So England didn't win that for a long time in my career. Ireland with the Gaelic sports behind them were as good as you came across in any team. You take New Zealand, that they were probably the most dominant force in that regard for a long time. And then other teams have caught up. So you look at someone like Johnny May and his transition through the last 4 or 5 years in terms of how he's developed his game of being a quick guy that could break tackles to actually being a guy who could dominate you in the air. And I think England have used that. Eddie Jones for a long time has talked about that being the sort of the third set piece regarding scrum line-out, and then actually winning that aerial battle has become so key in professional sport. Sorry, even international sport, because it actually has huge ramifications on the game and how it's played and how you can manage the territory battle. So Ireland are as good as you will ever come across, but England have got some outstanding guys in the air, and with the likes of Ford kicking the ball and sort of developing his spiral bombs. Whether that becomes a factor today, who knows?
Ian, how does that look in training? When I was a lad, everything was playing with the ball, and if you had a good kicker, you just kind of let them do it on a Saturday. How much do you practice that aerial game?
Yeah, look, it is. It's not something you'd spend too much time in training. I know. When Joe Schmidt was the head coach, he had a big value on it, and he loved getting both verbal pressure, and he'd have tackle bags that he'd be thrown at you as you'd be jumping up in the air, and different ways to try and put you off. And he'd put huge pressure on the scrum half to make sure that their box kicks were really accurate. A big thing with it is timing. It's your timing up at the ball, how you dominate the space. Not getting stuck underneath those high kicks. That's probably the biggest skill with it. It's having momentum into the catch. So you're effectively taking the guys out who you're competing against, and if you're receiving a kick, you're dominating the space so it doesn't happen to you. So look, it is a skill that I think a lot of the back three players and the likes of Dan Bigger for Wales, they probably spend a lot of time on it more as a closed skill. You wouldn't necessarily be doing it within the team environment. So I know that the Irish team, when they're in training, they're working on moving the ball and running it. But when it comes to games, we know that it's a big part of our game plan that we're going to go to, the box kicks off Conor Murray and the aerial bombs off Johnny Sexton.
Toby, the game's changed massively. You're 35, which is still not an old man, but we've now got scrum halves who are massive. We've got standoffs who love to tackle. We've got second rows that can run the length of the pitch, but we've now got brave wingers who can catch the ball. Like how I don't know if you saw this.
Let's not forget our dancing tight heads. What about Ty Furlong last week?
Yeah, no, I'm good with that.
That has now been viewed by millions of people.
Yeah, incredible
I think someone said that he'd actually sent out an apology to prop forwards everywhere because of that. But I think it was a sort of parody thing, but he'd apologised for that. I loved that. That was so good.
That he sort of like broken the mould positively, or that props me line for all these years, and actually you can all do it. But he's like, lads, I let the cat out of the bag. Shit, sorry.
That was absolute class.
It's one of the funny things in rugby. It's kind of like the different, out halves always cover each other. Like when another out half has a bad game and you're kind of reviewing it, you'll be like, but the pack weren't good enough. He was going backwards and the centres weren't communicating with them. The scrum halves are like the scrum half union. If it was like a trade union, would probably be the strongest trade union you could come across. Like they're all in it together, And then
which is weird if you think about it, because it's weird because they're probably the bitchiest blokes on the field as well. So you think they just they turn the knife. You know what I mean? At the end, no, it wasn't me. It was him.
Before team meetings, something would have gone completely wrong in a game, absolute car crash stuff. The nines made a complete mess of it. But before the team meeting, he'll be going around, weaseling around, going, "Here, say that this happened, and say that he didn't do this." And you're kind of going, "Hold on a second here." Never taking ownership for their mistakes.
No.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, that was some quality. But I don't know if you saw any of the Scotland-Italy game. It wasn't from a high ball, but a huge pass was thrown out to Darcy Graham, and Ione, the Italian winger, has absolutely killed him. absolutely killed him. Like it was like a whiplash with the head. He just absolutely killed him. Fair tackle, no penalty, but it took Darcy a while to get back up off his feet. Now, if you're standing waiting to receive a kick, you know, like you're saying, Ian, if you get the timing right, you're going to get absolutely hammered when you catch that ball.
Yeah, look, it's a big part of it. Like we'd work on, so the worst one is when you jump up to catch it, when you don't actually have to jump, you're better off staying on the ground so you can get it in your hands and move. And if you do that, it's really difficult for the tackler coming in because you could potentially jump late and they're going to catch you in the air. So a big part of that is actually the guys around you giving you, whether you're saying like there's a man on you, get up in the air, you're going to have to win it, or stay on the ground and work your feet. So, but yeah, look, that's a tough one. It was one of the best tackles of the Six Nations, and I'm a big fan of Ioni. I think he goes really well.
He's one of those guys you feel sorry for him that he's playing for Italy.
Yeah.
If he was in a better team, he would be able to score tries. He'd get his hands on the ball. He'd be able to, a bit like Parisi. Parisi would have been an All Black and a British Lion if he'd been born somewhere else, or played for somebody else.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, Toby, on the Eddie Jones situation at the moment? There's people who have said he's not getting selection right. What's your thoughts on the selections?
Do you know the one thing? I think you can go for hours on this, can't you? In terms of selection of who you pick in and what. And the one thing I think was interesting was when he said he didn't have the depth of talent. That was interesting. A couple of weeks ago, he comes out and says, "Well, you've got to look at the pool behind you." Now, you could argue in certain positions there is maybe a gap in talent, or certainly talent that is ready for international rugby. But I think what he was almost alluding to was that back row where everyone's kind of going, why aren't you picking these guys who would just stand out for their club week in, week out? So you take that Simmons one, which is, been floating around for, about a couple of years now, if anything. And you look at him and you think he would fit very well into that side. Vunipola, I sort of talk about that, I suppose Ian mentioned before that those Sarries boys need games because they haven't played. Normally you have 3 pre-season games and you go into a season. It's almost like England had their 3 pre-season games, then played France, and actually were about up to speed, which is kind of where you normally are as a player. But the selection side of thing, I think Vunipola's probably been a bit lucky to keep his place, and he's probably aware of that as well. Atoje, likewise, had that been somebody else just giving away penalties, maybe you change it. But the problem you've got there is how capable they are. And Eddie, has gone to a World Cup final, beaten the All Blacks in a semi-final with that group of players. So there's a huge amount of trust and value between their friendships and their relationships. But I definitely think, Simmons has been, both Simmons for Exeter have been outstanding. You look at potentially someone like, that back row, it's as difficult a position to get into with England as well, that back row. Second row, Ewells has been thereabouts. Launchbury's back, and had he been around, he's another player. And Courtney Laws is obviously injured. But so when I think you mentioned that lack of depth is frustrating. But I think the big thing is always that back row and the back 3 really is where England want to get things right. Daly hasn't played well. Should Malins have been given a more opportunity, certainly to start? I know he did last weekend, but that sort of stuff. So, he's had a couple of chances. But I think the problem England have is they're not playing tremendously well. And due to that, then question marks get raised about selection, who should be playing where, and why guys aren't getting a chance. No one comes knocking the door down when a team's winning. It's only when teams are losing, then people start to question other people's performances. And that's probably where England find themselves at the moment.
Toby, do you think that there's too much of a focus on the World Cup cycle now? And, it's almost like Eddie's made his mind up. These are my group of players, and no matter what, I'm going to stick with them for the next World Cup cycle. And, there's opportunities aren't being given to the likes of the Simmons brothers.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. I think, there's only one way you find out, isn't it? If you throw them in the deep end and see if they can swim, right? And that I think is been taken away from those guys. And I think you look at, say, for instance, I think it was Curry. Mark Wilson was definitely on the tour, and somebody else who went to the Argentina tour last time the Lions toured New Zealand, and they got that breakthrough, and then they sort of stalwarts in the team now. So, yeah, absolutely, I think that and that's due to the fact that Eddie can't pick his usual players because of the Lions selection. So I think there is definitely almost too big a onus on on the idea of keeping that band together and not letting anyone else there. And I always remember Lawrence Delalio saying, sometimes in your career, it's harder to get it's harder to get Pickford than it is to get dropped from England. And that sort of feels like that at the moment, that Eddie's sort of just so willing to stick with a team that has performed for a large part of his tenure that he's not willing to open. I do agree with you. I think sometimes you've got to look a little bit further down the line.
I was going to ask you that. Is it harder to get out than it is to get in? Is it harder to get in than it is to get out? Because there's there's a lot of people talking about Randall and Smith, 9 and 10. But would that mean that they would have to completely change how they do everything else if you bring in two players like that?
No, I don't think so. I think they'd fit in. That doesn't mean that they wouldn't do what they're good at. Randall, buzzes around, and Smith is an exceptional player and has been, Premiership Player of the Month. I don't think you change things dramatically. I think what you do is you just lend yourself to their talent. So there'll be things that they have to adapt to about the way England play and that power game that Ian talked about before. We're going to go over here and we're going to go bully Ireland for the first 40 minutes and just see how we get on. And I think that then that will probably have to, Marcus Smith would probably have to make a few more sort of executive decisions around what he's deciding to do with that. But absolutely, those two are prime candidates to get involved and be involved in England's setup. And I don't think England would have to change, or they wouldn't have to change too much. I think there would just be a slight adaptation of what they're doing, because you still want to keep them playing and operating the way they are. And I think that's what they bring, and that's why they need to play.
Yeah, I think as well, like with good sides, the likes of England, Ireland, France, when there is, let's say, an injury crisis in one position, if the team is functioning well, that perceived more inexperienced player will come in, and it should be seamless. And that's a sign of a real quality side, a side that's really comfortable in what they're doing, both sides of the ball, attack and defence. That literally the playbook's kind of handed to this guy who's been called up late, and he's just being told, look, you do your role well, we're all going to do ours, and this finely tuned machine is going to continue heading in the right direction. Whereas if you looked at a side like, for example, Italy today that aren't at the races, and you bring someone in late there, they could potentially have a complete shocker because there's big parts of their game that aren't functioning.
What's your thoughts on Ireland, Ian, with Farrell? What's his relationship like with the players? Do you feel like he's getting things right?
Yeah, I think his relationship is good with the players. Obviously, Joe Schmidt had been in there for a good number of years, and I think the way professional sport is going, you need to be a kind of really unique kind of character to stay in as a head role for 5-10 years. We rarely see it now, unless I think you've got a certain style that lends itself to longevity. It's very difficult, and Joe's style was very intense. Now it worked, and we had great success under Joe. But did it kind of run its course? Maybe it did, and maybe it got a bit stale towards the end. Now I wasn't involved with Ireland, during those last few years, so it's hard for me to say. But I do know now, with the players in camp and playing in the Six Nations or the Autumn Series, the players are really enjoying being in camp and enjoying working under Andy. And while the results weren't great initially starting off the Six Nations, I do think the players are still playing for him, and we saw that with a good win away to Scotland. But I think the litmus test for the Irish team and the coaching setup is going to be today. If you look back on the Six Nations and you say you've only beaten Scotland and Italy, that's a pretty poor return for Ireland, who are an ambitious side in every Six Nations. We want to be competing on the final day, just like England, to be lifting the championship.
I think having worked with with Andy, for about 2 or 3 years, like he's full of energy. Like he's got an aura about him, and he's full of energy, and it's such composed and well directed energy, and you can see how he builds a rapport with players. And absolutely, I think he's obviously I don't have insight into the Irish camp, but I don't think being a people person is ever his issue. I think it's just been the fact that Ireland are going through a little bit of a rut and trying to get out of it, and that's when probably he as an individual feels the pressure. But in terms of what he brings to a body of people, he's brilliant. He's a wonderful guy to have around in terms of driving it, in terms of being compassionate, and also, interested, I think, beyond rugby as well, which is really important.
Have you had a chat to him, Ian?
Yeah, we actually trained with the Irish team just before the Six Nations started. Ulster went down, and we did a training session in their kind of high performance center. And I toured with Andy in South Africa. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. So yeah, look, he's someone there's always an open chain of contact there. I know that I've got to keep up my end of the bargain. But I think in Ireland it's different. It is different to being in England. If you're playing well for one of the 12 sides in England, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get close to the English team. But in Ireland, if you're playing well for one of the provinces and starting, you're one of 4 guys. There's not many foreigners, especially not at out half. There's none currently in Ireland. So if you're starting and playing well for your province, you're going to be close. And it's still my number one goal to get back into that Irish setup. It obviously hasn't happened for me for this Six Nations, but you never know. If you catch form and other guys don't, you can still be with a chance of getting in.
Are you still enjoying it? Are you still loving playing?
Yeah, loving it. Yeah, like my last year, like I love my time in France and 3 years in Bristol, but my last year in Bristol was testing enough. It was kind of made clear to me that I wasn't in the future plans of the club. But look, you just grit your teeth and grind through it. But this year's been a breath of fresh air. I've loved working with the coaches up in Ulster, and there's a great group of a blend of really good quality young players coming through, and some really experienced guys who have been at Ulster for 8, 9, 10 years. They haven't won any trophies, and they're seriously hungry to do that. So it's a really enjoyable place to go in and work. And we're lucky, like the coaches, they very, very much come down to the players' level. We can have a big input into game plans and what we're doing in training, and that's been a part of this year that I've really enjoyed.
Are you a decent spectator, Ian?
I'm not great. I'm sure we'll see that today. I usually get pretty vocal, yeah. I watch a lot of rugby, so I kind of have my own way of how I like the game to be played, and if the players aren't following that, I can get a bit frustrated. But I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a cracker.
Toby, what are you like as a spectator?
You don't want to hear this, but I don't really say much, mate. I just sit and watch, which would be great for this. You might as well just be like, I'll be just grunting through it, like, yeah. So, yeah, same as Ian. You have to watch a fair bit with your prep and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I sit there. I've normally got a 4.5-year-old sitting next to me, asking me questions about why is that happening, who's got the ball, what's doing there, who's got that. So it's quite nice to be able to watch it without inane questions. But we'll find out.
Did you do commentary recently for one of the Newcastle games, Toby? Was that? Did I hear you on?
Yeah, I did the one against who they played. Bath, yeah.
How do you find commentating on your own team?
Mate, it was really hard. But I hope it's really difficult, especially when you get your ass handed to you. Like we lost like 38 something, right? So it was pretty gritty. So I think I got like people on Twitter and stuff saying, could you be any more biased, right? then one of the lads in the physio room goes, mate, have you still got a job at Newcastle? Like you kept calling Newcastle. So I was like, I couldn't win. So then I was like, well, hopefully that means I've trod the right line. Like I've like not gone two way, So I was like, right, good. It is what it is. But there we go.
Yeah.
But really hard, mate.
Yeah. If your team's going well, like if you guys, let's say, beat Wasp 40-10, it's the easiest job in the world. 100%. But yeah, no, look, it's tough going as a current player, being able to be objective, especially about your own team. I don't envy you there.
And it was a bit like, I think like we were down maybe like it was like 28-14, say, with like 14 minutes to go, and I sort of said, look, if Falcons take a chunk out of this, they've got a chance of like getting back in the game. Just got hammered. And I knew I was making it up because Bath were dominating, but I was just like, I've got to say it. Like I've got to show at least a bit of belief. But there we go.
I love that. See, in Scotland, because there's only 2 pro teams, whenever the games are on BBC Scotland radio, it's always a player from the team. So when Glasgow are playing, it's a Glasgow player who's the pundit. When Edinburgh are playing, it's an Edinburgh player. And it's so grey. It's so beige. It's just there's nothing spectacular about it at all. And then you get somebody like Fraser Brown who bitches and moans when he plays anyway. So he bitches and moans about the referee. That's about as spicy as it gets when Fraser's on and has a pop at the referee. Ian, on the TV, we've got Rory Best as the sort of pundit in his front living room, a bit like you two. Now, most players who have been anywhere with Rory Best have a Rory Best story. And I've heard about Joe Marler and Rory Best on Lions tours. I've heard about shutting the door and saying nobody leaves. What's Rory Best like as a captain, as a tourist, as a teammate?
Yeah, I think Rory's biggest strength as a captain was his ability to turn it on and turn it off. You know, when he was switched on, around team meetings, training sessions, games, you knew he was on and everyone followed him, and that was great. But and similar to Paul O'Connell, you know, the soft side to those two guys, their ability to enjoy a good social event, a good few beers. When you've done a training camp, at the end of a training camp, I'm sure Toby's been on plenty of them, the 4 or 5 day training camp ends, you've blown the doors off it training wise. And look, it's important as a team that you get to enjoy each other's company, because we're demanding a huge amount of each other as players. So I think when you've built that kind of softer side and you have respect for someone, and you see that they can have a bit of fun, a bit of crack and a night out, that when they're looking to drive you on and push you in training or in a match the following week, you're more inclined to do it. Whereas if it's all pull and no give, it can grind on you, and it can feel, it can get too much at times. So no, with Rory, he was always great for that. He knew when it was right to take the foot off the pedal and enjoy a few beers. And
I've got a one away one, but I did some. So Geordie Murphy and I did some stuff down in Twickenham last year. And Geordie, he said, "Look, I'm going down to London anyway. I'll step in." I said, "Brilliant, mate. Come across, do what you got to do." And he took his wife down away from the kids, so it was a night away from the kids. So it worked out really well. Staying in a nice hotel. He gets a message at about 8, 7:30, 8 from Rory, who says, "Oh yeah, I hear in London that you're knocking about." And he was like, "Yeah." So Rory joins him for dinner at about 8:30, 8:45. Proceeds then to drink with them. And then Annika goes, "I might just head off now," with a bit of a nudge and a wink to say, "Geordie, come follow me. We've been away from the kids for a while. Could be a fun night." Geordie then rocks up at Twickenham, and I look at him. I'm like, "You're right." And I bear in mind, I've sold him here by going, "Geordie's great on the microphone, funny bloke, whatever, really good." And Geordie's rocked up, got out of the car, and nearly fallen out the car, and as white as a sheet. And he looked at me and went, "Rory Best, 5:30 in the morning." That's all he said. It's just right, okay, good to know. Thanks, mate. This is gonna be fun today. So Rory, I think from what I've heard is pretty impressive. Yeah.
Well, see, I was impressed by Madigan's footwork there, because he gave the most bloody political answer he could possibly have given. Dressed
be careful.
Dressed it up in a whole load of, we've got to stick together and all that bull crap. And what I really wanted was a Rory Best drinking story. Yeah, so well played, Madigan.
Yeah,
well played.
You covered me, Floody. You covered me, mate. Good on you.
Oh yeah. I hope he's mayor of Ulster, isn't he? He can kick him out. You got to be careful.
Yeah, he still comes in fairness to him, he still comes in, just off his own bat. He still does work with, good chunk of the young guys, especially our forwards. And, it's just a measure of the man he is. He's an absolute legend up north. And, got to be careful. I don't want to be saying anything that he wouldn't be too happy with.
I went with the Penguins with Simon, his brother. And we went up to help Orkney in the Orkney Islands up north of Scotland. We went up there to help them celebrate an anniversary, and we played a game, and Bestie was propping, obviously, but the scrum was getting hammered. So it was a team of old boy Penguins with a couple of young bucks in it playing against Orkney, who had a squad of, the islands have got 12,000 people in them. There was about 20,000 people there, and all of them available for selection. And the scrum was getting absolutely hammered. And Bestie goes up to the Ian Sinclair, who was running the team at the time, and said, "You need to tell the referee it's uncontested." but don't you dare tell him it's me that's asking. Because the first half was just tough, and he was getting sore, and he was getting twisted. So the second half was played uncontested so that he could keep going. But brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant guy. What a family! I would hate to see Christmas dinner with that lot all around the table. That just must be off the hook. Absolutely off the hook. Brilliant. So, gents, as we get closer to kickoff, Toby, what's your thoughts? You gave us a prediction at the start of the week. Have you changed your mind?
Well, yes, in a sense, I can't remember what I said. So, yeah, I mean, that probably is the first. Yeah. So, I think, yeah. So, whatever I said the week, don't listen to me. I think I said 26-24 if memory serves. And I still feel it's going to be tight. Ian was right. It's going to be tight. It's going to be a 3-point game. Is a good call. It's going to depend on as Ian alluded to before, of whether England can come over there and dominate Ireland physically. Now, I think Ringrose is a big loss, because if the manner to which Ireland wanted to play in terms of let's get away from that, let's loosen this game up, that's a huge loss. I mean, Bundyaki is a wonderful talent, but he probably hasn't got the array of movement that Ringrose has. But he's a lovely ball player. So, but then with that, you've now got Henshaw outside of him, so it's a bit more straight up and down rather than being more elusive. But I still think that they're probably going to have to adapt. And in England, the one thing that sits on me is when England get it right in terms of that physicality. You saw that try. I was just watching there in the corner of my eye, the Watson try against Wales, the Watson try against France. Is they just dominate you physically, and when they get that grind going, they power you, and the ball's so quick. That's when Ireland might come unstuck, and that's where the game, theoretically, if they weren't able to match England, could get loose. And in terms of the scoreline, it could get to 30s. But I still think Ireland is savvy and they're bright and they'll manage it, and I think it'll still be a very tight game. So I'll still stick with 26-22 or whatever I said midweek. If that was right. Is that right?
We've got a change. Mallins is out, so Daly's gone to 15 and Lawrence is at 13.
Now this is the thing, right? So this is the classic thing, Ian, you'll know, whether he was injured on Tuesday. You know, so you know what I mean. Like, so we got privy to it, but we all do the same thing, don't we? Like, oh, he dropped out the last minute. He's been injured since Monday. So, that game we played against Bath in the commentary, I was winding Reece Priestland up after the game, saying, obviously he didn't want to kick at Kingston Park in the wind, protect your 36 out of 36 record. And actually said no. He looked at you and nodded, but also said, I've also that my AC, and it was 50-50 or 25, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do wonder. It's one of those ones where we all get shocked by it and go, "Oh, that's going to be really difficult for Lawrence and Malin's dropping out, and obviously Elliot shifting." But it might not be, because it might have happened on Wednesday. We just don't know. So
I love the conspiracy. I love that. That's why you guys are here.
Yeah, I think on the face of it, you think, geez, that's 2 late changes they've had to make. That's going to cause a lot of trouble. But I think internally, I don't think England will be flustered. Like, Elliot Daly's played the majority of the games for England over the last few years at fullback. So, if he was named to start, which he could well have been, you wouldn't have thought anything of it. Now, Lawrence is different. Lawrence, for me, is someone who I can see Johnny Sexton would be in the change room now, talking up tactics to manipulate him in defence. I thought Slade uncharacteristically made a couple of poor defensive errors last week. Biting in on that. That fantastic French try. It looks better than it is, because he's made a really poor read for me. He sold himself on his inside shoulder. So I think with the likes of Bundy and Robbie, as you said, they're straight up and down centres. Especially Bundy runs good hard lines. Robbie's got a bit more agility to his game. So it'll be interesting to see now if Ireland try a few of those kind of wraparound plays to try and get Lawrence biting at 13, and you could see the likes of Stockdale get some space down his wing. So look, that's definitely turned things, I think, slightly in Ireland's favour, which is going to help. But ultimately, for me, it's going to come down to what goes on up front and how Ireland go about that. They're going to need some good deception there. They can't take on that England pack straight up. So
Ian, on the what just is on the screens, what's the deal with CJ standout? So is there any, is he just decide that's enough and I can't do it anymore?
Yeah. Basically, he came out and kind of gave a pretty wide-ranging statement, just saying, look, he's loved his time in rugby, loved his time in Ireland with Munster and the national team, and it's been tough on him because his wife, obviously through lockdown, has been coming and going between Ireland and South Africa, and he basically said, look, she's made a lot of sacrifices for me over the years, and I'm ready to kind of step back and support her and support the kids and get back to family in South Africa. So as of now, he's effectively retiring at the end of the season. So, you know, whether he reignites his hunger in a year's time, and, you know, you would know one of the South African franchises could come in for him then. And look, if he does decide that, then good on him. But he's been a fantastic servant here, and he's an absolute legend down in Munster, and he's been a stalwart for Ireland. So look, he owes us nothing. And I don't know, Toby, I don't know what you think, but I know with the way the game has gone, like, you've had a great innings yourself, like getting to 35, but the game, there's no doubt about it, it has got considerably tougher. Like, even watching
it's unrecognizable from when I first started. It's not even the same. I try and sell it as, you know, when I first started, there'd be 5 or 6 guys you could target in the team and get them to jump in or make poor reads, or he's just a bit heavy and a bit slow, like simple as that. Like, you know, after 25 minutes, he'll be hanging because of whatever. Now it's just, there's just no, now it's more, there are the nuances in the individual, but systems have got better, systematically teams have got better. And actually, physically, kids come off the rank now, the taxi rank, just built for rugby. And that, you know, I rocked up at Newcastle, and I'm obviously a very strong lad, but I'll probably bench about 60 kilograms. Do you know what I mean? Like, and now I don't want to show off, but I bench 65. So if anything, professional, but and then it was like, it was almost a given you were going to spend 18 months getting better and getting physically ready for the sport. Now, don't get me wrong, they're physically ready, but are they mentally ready? Probably not. In terms of, for a lot of them, it's a big challenge to go from training twice a week in inverted commas at school and playing schoolboy rugby to the demands and rigor of professional sport, and that takes a little bit of time to adapt. But mate, it's not even close to once I started. Not even close.
Yeah. Like, I was watching the London Irish Worcester game in London Irish last week, and the stats came up at the end, and Blair Cowan he'd made 35 tackles. Yeah. And
that's a season. That's a season for us, mate.
That's a season 10 years ago. That's a full season, and it's about 25 too much at that. So
I think it's topped my career stats in one shot. It's incredible.
But like, even for us, like, Toby, let's say 10 years ago, if someone made 20 tackles in a game, we would have gone, that was amazing, unbelievable. But like, how sustainable is it for Blair? So let's say he plays 25 games in a season and he's making 35 tackles a game. Yeah. Like, you know, the body just can't hold up to that. Yeah, the
attrition rate is, and that's the worrying thing. I think, you know, we've got all this brain scare at the moment, which is terrifying. Obviously, we don't want to get too deep into that, but but then you look at the physical effects of what we're doing. Yeah, it's nuts, man. It's nuts.
Yeah. Anyway, and he's playing in probably the most attritional position at number 8. And the way Ireland and Munster use him, he does a lot of the hard yards. He's running directly into 2 guys nearly every time. He's the guy who gets you those 1 yard carries, keeps you at the gain line, releases other players. And he's done that for, I don't know how long he's been in Ireland, but it's definitely 8 or 9 years anyway. And he's done a great job at it. And maybe he's just feeling, look, I'm going to call it now.
Yeah, mate. We've all felt that way, I think.
I was delighted because he took up a whole period of me teaching my senior boys PE on the screen this week. Because, sir, why is CJ Stander retired? Where's he going? Why is he done that? Because you've got 18-year-old kids who are desperate to be professional rugby players who cannot understand this guy.
Yes,
player number 8 for Ireland. There's a Lions tour coming up. Sir, what is he doing? It's like, listen, lads, I've no idea. So, but why? Why does his wife want to go back? What's wrong with it? Like, whoa! So that took us a good half hour just dissecting the CJ Stander announcement. But he has been class. Do you think he's going to get man of the match today, Ian?
He'll definitely be in contention. The way we play, he gets his hands on the ball a whole lot. So it'd be slightly different for him at 6. 6 definitely. He's more effective at 8 for me. But there's a guy there, Jack Conan, in at 8. He's a fantastic player, and he might come in under the radar a bit for the English. They wouldn't know him as well. he's a guy, unfortunately, who's had a good few injuries over the last few years, but he's going to be fresh. He hasn't played too much in this Six Nations, and he's a really strong ball carrier, and he's probably got a bit more to his game than CJ as regards his footwork and his ability to offload. He probably doesn't have the repeat effort that CJ has in his tank, but Jack's a quality player, and I can see him really stepping up and having a great game.
I know he's probably less effective. I agree with you, but I've something about 6. You get to pick and choose when you come around, and you can sort of like build yourself up and spot guys you want to run at. I think you're dead right. You won't probably have as many opportunities to have that impact, but you're dead right. But maybe it's always that position that I wish I was 6'4" and another 20 kilograms. I'd love to have played 6. I would love, because you just do what you want. Stand on the edge, just sit there on the edge, mark the defensive line, and then just come in and just knock someone out. It'd be brilliant. I'd absolutely love that.
I don't think I've ever heard a standoff say that they want. Usually, everybody say they want your position.
You always want what you can't have. That's what you know. So there you go.
Tell me, I know that story. Listen, gents, I'll give you 30 seconds to just gather yourself while we hear a little advert from one of our sponsors, Snackfully, who have fixed people up with some of their snacks. We'll get ready for this game to get going. Boys have gone to get themselves ready for kickoff. So let's hear from Snackfully now. So we are ready to go. How good are these two? Absolutely brilliant. You gotta love them. Can't believe Toby Flood wants to be a number 6. Go figure. So, folks, make sure you send us your pictures of your setup. What have you got going on? Let's see the big screen. Let's see the laptop setup. Are you watching on your phone? Send us in some questions. Make these two guys work. Let's see what you have got. Because Toby, I'm a little bit worried. He said he's not got his 4.5 there asking inane questions. So I'm a little bit concerned that he's... I'm going to be asking him some inane questions. So can we get some questions in for Toby and Ian? Send them to the number that's scrolling along the bottom. Make sure you get your pictures in at Rugby Bash on Twitter, and let's see what you're up to. So we're off and running. How big's discipline for England today, Toby? They've been getting hammered for the penalties they've given away.
Yeah, massive. Look, I think it's become such an integral part of any sport, really, in terms of how you don't want to give opportunities to the opposition. And rugby these days, we talked about that sort of third set piece in the aerial battle. Discipline, if you sort of lose that game and you're sort of especially ill-disciplined around your sort of halfway line, teams will just take you to the corner or kick 3 points depending on who their kicker is. And then the game just runs away from you. So massive for England today to be on top of that and to be physically impressive, but also not overstep the mark as some of them have done.
Ian, how good's Keith Earls?
He's very good at what he does. For a winger, it's probably the toughest position to stay in for as long as he has. And he's definitely learned to adapt his game as rugby has moved on through the last kind of 10 years. That's sloppy from Ireland there. Sorry. Good start from England there. Geez, they were physical there when they put that kick in. They're obviously looking to barge rucks and straight up there, double tackle on Ty Furlong, double tackle on CJ. They know what's coming from the Irish team. So hopefully we'll see Ireland play a bit more, but definitely a good intent by England starting off there. Keith
Earls is the one that never really gets as much credit as the others. Stockdale carving it up, and James Lowe is this, and there's a lot of chat about him. Keith Earls just seems to go about his business very, very well.
Yeah, he's one of those wingers. He makes very, very few mistakes. But so a lot of what he does is 7s and 8s, but then he throws in that bit of magic as well. And he's very good in the air. He's got great feet, good acceleration. And he was a huge part of Joe Schmidt's game plan. And you can see that he's an integral part of what Andy Farrell and Mike Hatt are doing.
I think you've almost got to have sort of dependable guys, haven't you, on the field? You can have those guys who are going to
big time
rip it up, and don't get me wrong, he has the ability to do so, but also you've got the level of trust that he has, because he rarely makes an error. He's good in defence, good going forward. He's a great asset to the Irish team for sure. as you just get stripped there.
Yeah, as Ireland just knock it off the back of his.
I'm not even commentating on the game. How's that happening? Sorry.
First scrum here, Toby. What are you thinking? Like, do you think the English pack could have the edge in the scrum, or do you think we'll go all right? Ireland will go all right, rather.
I think Ireland will go all right. You know, I think your scrum's been okay this tournament, but absolutely, first scrum you have a massive whack at it, especially when you can set the tempo on your own ball, you can manage the engage. With Sinclair's temperament and how he probably wants to get involved in the game, he'll have a massive swing at this. And the one issue England, or the one issue always following Vunipola around is his technical ability in the scrum. But I think that's getting a lot better, and when he's on it, he's really impressive. And the weight that England have with Itoje and Ewells in there as well is serious. So I think this will be an interesting one. Yeah,
big one for Kilcoyne here.
Yeah,
one of the Munster props. Hasn't played for Ireland a whole lot. He's been kind of in and out, but he's a really dynamic ball carrier. I don't know a whole lot about the scrummaging. I'm not going to try and bluff it, other than
I love though that you got the question in first. You're like, so Toby, what do you think about this scrum?
Yeah, but little do you know that I lived with Dan Cole for 18 months, and honestly, he got so angry if we had a game on record and I fast forwarded the scrums. Like, it's getting away. He would look at me and be like, "What are you doing? Like, that's what I do." And I'm like, "No, like that's like the scrum, but this is rugby." And he's like, "No." And he would talk me out binds and all sorts. So at one point in my career, my knowledge was brilliant. Now, no idea again. It's gone back into the dark ages. No idea what's happening.
I've just learned off one phrase that I rattle off the whole time. I just keep going, 16 studs in the ground, boys. Come on. They all seem to buy into that.
See, that's poor for mine there, isn't it? Look, you've got, as you said, you've got a bit of ascendancy first up, and you've just stepped into touch with Stockdale, and then you just run a first phase move into he's got. And I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get into Fowler. You're trying to have a whack at him, but he's never gonna back down Fowler. He's always gonna whack you. And even if he slips off you, he's still gonna come up and go again. Just to turn it over is poor.
Yeah, great opportunity to get field pressure, midfield scrum. The fullbacks covering a lot of space. Even if Bundy carries that, they've got the England pack are tied into the middle, and opportunity to put the ball up in the air around the 22. It's going to be a one-on-one catch, and then suddenly Ireland are in a great position. So no, look, that's probably Bundy being overexcited. He hasn't had any opportunities in this year's Six Nations. He wanted to get his hands on the ball and as you said, get after Farrell, get after the England captain and try and energise his side that way. But that didn't work out, and Ireland are looking now to getting another chance kind of around the halfway.
Yeah, that was poor from Daly. It's a little bit nervy, isn't it?
Teams are a bit shaky, aren't they?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a Grand Slam match, isn't it? So you got to remember, everything's on the line.
Ian, what's the story with Conor Murray? He's in for this one. Is that because he's needed? This one's important. What's the story with Conor Murray?
Yeah, his form hasn't been as consistent as it was. Definitely under kind of Joe Schmidt and up till kind of the World Cup, he'd a poor World Cup by his high standards. I think physically he's back looking a lot better. It looked like he'd kind of deconditioned a small bit. I know he had a neck injury that was holding him back for a while, but look, he's the best way to re-find your form is with your club, and he's actually been playing really well for Munster, and I think he's a guy who has loads of experience of playing against England and knowing how to win. So whereas with Gibson Park, not as experienced, but a good guy to have off the bench. He's a guy who can come off and really speed things up, and that wouldn't necessarily be Murray's strength. He's more of a starter for me. He's going to be rock solid. He'll direct the team around for 60 minutes, and then hopefully we're still in the contest, and Jameson can come on then and really speed things up, further. So I think it does suit his game today, and that's why he's in. Oh, you gotta love a choke tackle. Go on, Ireland.
Oh man, this choke tackle. Change the law.
Change the law.
Change the law. Two things I'd change the law with is that one, which I think's, I get it, and it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, it's a great way to get the ball back. It's one of the best, but it's like it's a weird law of the game. And the second one would be sort of would be where you sort of pass the ball back into 22 and you just take a flop and you just sort of concede ground to kick.
Yeah.
Like you can't pass the ball back to kick it, but effectively you're just doing that in a phase longer. So either redo that law where you can just pass it back and kick it out, or don't let that happen. It's just a bit daft. There we go.
Yeah, they have that in rugby league, the surrender tackle. That it's you shouldn't be allowed to kick it straight out if you surrender into your 22. But the one I'd like to change would be, I'm sure you'll relate to this.
When did this turn into grumpy old men? Do you remember that on the TV show? When did this turn into that?
Let's change a few rules to protect.
Another thing.
Let's change a few rules to protect our right halves in the game. I've got one for you. How about no latching in tackles? I hate the latching. For us kind of 90 kilo guys, when you've got 220 kilo forwards latching on each other, it's just that's where a lot of the injuries are still coming in the game for me. It's just a dangerous part of it. Yeah,
the pre-latch is an odd thing, and you'd almost say that and that ironically then would remove that pick and go stuff that's going on at the moment. The classic extra stuff, and we do it. Everyone does it, where you sort of form that mini scrum on the back of the ruck and just use that weight to gain you 3 or 4 yards. Absolutely, yeah. It's not
even now, like they're saying when it's the tap and go 5 meters from the line, they're like no pre-latch on them. It's like, well, why don't we just bring that rule in everywhere? It's
I know. I agree. Well, I think we solved rugby then. There's no problem then. There'll be no issues with any law there. We'll be fine.
That's it. Nailed it. The one on passing it back for the kick. If you pass it back behind your own goal line and you touched it down, you've carried it back. So the same should apply on the 22. If you've carried it back, no matter if it's back for a stupid breakdown to allow you to then exit, you've carried it back.
Nice, Johnny. Yeah, that's a great, isn't it?
Yeah, they're in trouble there. Go on, Jacob. It's great to see Jacob Stockdale back in the side. He's one of those really classy players that Ireland have. That can, he's got the size. We're not blessed with big wingers in Ireland. Obviously, James Lowe has come in from New Zealand. Jacob's, he's a big, tall guy, big, strong, great left boot, and he's got really good feet. He's someone who I didn't.
So Ian, what's going on there? Like, sorry to interrupt, but because he's got everything, and I know it all happened really early for him. He sort of. So that's always difficult to mentally take anyway. Suddenly, you look at sort of. Who's the winger who's exited now from was at Wales? Cuthbert. You look at Cuthbert, almost that sort of explosion. Is that an issue? Is that why he sort of found himself at the moment? He's been questioned for playing and stuff. Is that just the first time he's had that negative press and he's sort of a bit concerned about it?
Yeah, it's been an unusual one. He is, the way some players just seem to come in for negative press. Like Farrell for England's probably one of those. He's been just absolutely incredible for the last 10 years. But he's almost like one of those guys that the media love to hate. And there is definitely an element of that with Jacob. And I don't really get it, especially this year, having played with him and being in the environment and seeing what kind of personality he has. There are some characters in rugby that aren't the most likable, and he's certainly not one of them. Just a real genuine guy, and puts it in consistently in training and games. And I think he's actually a very consistent performer. But where he can undo himself is sometimes his mistakes are quite. They stand out on their own, and they can look almost a bit sloppy. But
because I remember that game when he got hammered for missing Chelsea and Kobe.
Yeah.
Who doesn't miss against Bath? He made someone fall down. I'm sure he crapped his pants as well at the same time when he did it. Like there was that, honestly, I was thinking well, I get the fact you're going to miss him, and all right, he's an international winger, so he could do better. But I think everyone probably against Chelsea and Colby goes, I probably could have done better then. But then it's Chelsea and Colby, and he can beat you in a phone box. It's like
he would have. I could have done better, and he would have beat you on the other side. So
actually, if you looked at it, I don't know who the prop was. I don't know which prop it was, but at the time, but he takes himself out of the game. And if you just look after Stockdale's inside shoulder, he can probably be a bit more. Anyway, it is what it is. And we're talking rubbish, but anyway, big scrum. Anyway, back to this game. Big scrum.
Yeah. Ireland scrums, they held up. That midfield one was kind of just a stalemate, wasn't it? Not a whole lot. It was good to see it stayed up anyway. Yeah.
What do Ireland do here? I can't see their setup. Are they one on the short side and does
Yeah,
nine
Murray's going to
pressure
play
or
high
nine
here.
boot?
I
Will he
think
stay high? Will he force
Murray
him?
will stay high, yeah.
Okay.
I think anyway. Yeah, they don't want to give Vunipola a run here. Yeah.
No.
Oh, early engage, take that. That's such a cheap one to give away. Don't understand that rule, but if we get it going your way, you'll take it every time.
I mean, I don't get that either. So has he said early engage or early shove?
Look like early engage. They barely were pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, and like the crossing at the line out. That's another rule. Like the blocking when you're setting up a maul. I'm just always like, how did you get that wrong?
Yeah, I know. What's he done him for there? Yeah, hasn't he? Yeah. Jeez.
In fairness to be interesting now to see if England can get some phases. First time to get some phases in the Irish half.
Yeah, and actually, England's set piece so far has looked very solid, and they're playing really quick off it. You know, they've got a lot of breakouts, so it's look, big drive here.
The Irish line-out's gone a lot better actually this Six Nations. Paul O'Connell's come in, he's running the line-out. It's been really good. Oh, good high press from Ireland there.
The line-out was ridiculous against Scotland. Paul O'Connell against Scotland was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was very aggressive from Ireland there, like pretty much four straight up.
Brilliant.
Keith Earls is nearly inside the inside post. Pretty aggressive.
And there's a massive disengage. So massive disengage between the winger and the fullback there as well. So you think England will look at that again. So because it's so aggressive. Because it's so aggressive. Look, he has a long way to come, the 15. So you think maybe they'll have a little look at that. But as you say, Keith Earls has got a long way. Great read by Henshaw. Good shift off.
Henshaw's had a great Six Nations. He's played really well. He's probably been Ireland's best back. Just carries the ball well. He's good defensively. He's really made that centre role his own.
Is he nailed on for the Lions? As in to start, is it worth?
He's definitely going to be in the mix. He's also he's a good guy to have in your 23. If he's not starting, you can have him on the bench and he can cover the midfield. He can cover full back as well. So and he's comfortable playing 12 and 13. So he in a way he could nearly do himself out of a starting position because he's so versatile. That 23 slot is so important in those, especially against South Africa. It's going to be so physical. You're going to need all your bench, aren't you?
Oh yeah, it's going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible. Well, I mean, I've seen the sort of predicted tournament, if that makes sense, because it's going to be in the UK by the sound of things, right? It's going to be Tottenham's ground. We got a Greg Peterson's a USA international. Our change room was like, he said they were supposed to play England and South Africa, and he was like, "Oh, great kick," and he's now gone. It's got even worse. It's like we've got to play South Africa, and then the Lions. He's like we've not played Test rugby for like 18 months. So yeah, it looks like USA will come in and Japan will come in and play some warm up games. You heard it here first. It might all be hearsay, but that's what he said. So,
will they play any club teams or what's the
none?
Now?
There was talk of a French barbarian squad,
that's right,
wasn't there?
Yeah, there is.
I know, like for our league, Toby, like we've actually just finished up our league. So the Pro 14 was cut in half effectively, or cut into 2/3, whatever it is, and we're obviously with Europe in a couple of weeks, and then the Rainbow Cup is starting, where the 4 South African franchises are joining the Welsh, Scottish, Italian, Irish league. So that's good. Like at least a lot of the South Africans will actually get 3 months of club rugby outside of the Currie Cup, which they've obviously played. But you can't, yourself, you can't just keep competing against your own in South Africa. The quality of those games wouldn't have been good enough in the Currie Cup for the likes of what they're going to be facing in the Lions. So,
is that done and dusted then? Is that forever? South Africa will now be part of the Pro 14.
Effectively, yeah. That's the plan going forward. So, I think for this, it's obviously only going to be a short season. It's going to run till towards the end of June. But the South African teams, I think, are going to come over and base themselves in either somewhere in the UK. So it could be England. There was talk of one of the teams basing themselves in Dubai, and then I presume there's another one going to be in Ireland or Wales.
Okay.
And they're going to play all their games effectively away, but they might have a home venue that they can play them at. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes on.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
Because the two South African teams that were in it previously, they weren't in this year, but they were in. Yeah, they didn't go great. The Cheetahs were okay, but the Lions were poor. But the likes of the Bulls, you know, the Stormers, the Bulls, they're good sides.
Yeah.
And our league needs that because the Irish sides. The reality is the Irish sides, Leinster, Munster, Ulster, have really dominated that competition over the last couple of seasons. So you know, they need more competitive games compared to the Premiership, where, you know, regardless of who's playing who on a given week, you're guaranteed it's going to be a pretty close game. So,
as you know, a bit of Bristol. Is that Spiral Bomb?
Jeez, he didn't even get his hands on it. Bundy did well to get back there.
That's a shot. Great kick.
Why has the Spiral Bomb come back?
So I think purely because, from my point of view, is because people have become so proficient in the air. You know, so good on the high ball. Like a high ball once in a while was quite a scary thing to take, even though the ball was spinning normally. But because people have got such a skill set now, this thing that moves, he's actually not hit a Spiral Bomb there. He's just hit a wobbler. He's not caught. So he's tried to hit the Spiral Bomb and he's caught it a bit fat, and it's just move. Look at it move. The last minute. And because I think that people have become so proficient and so good under it in general that actually you're trying to work out another way to sort of destabilize them. And that's the only way, really. The problem is, if you're kicking it down a 15-meter channel, it's like any still. The reason why the Spiral went out the game years ago is because it has an ability to, if you don't catch it bang on, to move an extra 5, 10, 15 yards, you know, hit a fat one, hit a dead duck, wobbles around. Whereas the end over end is easier, not only easier to kick, but also more trustworthy, I suppose. And I think with that, you know, the Spiral Bomb, you can't be doing it next to a touchline because it can just drift. It could just move at the last second. So, you know, midfield Spiral Bombs are pretty nasty things. And I think that's why it's come back, because everyone, you know, we touched on before, like Tad Furlong's, you know, dancing, and the fact that all these guys are so well skilled now, you've got to find a way to unsettle them. Who's that off there? That's
Kilcoyne off?
Kilcoyne.
Keane Healy's come on. Yeah, we won't be seeing him again. I presume that looked like a nasty head knock.
Well, not a bad replacement to have, right?
No, look, that's not going to make us any weak. Maybe slightly in the loose. Keane's been great in the loose for Ireland, but I don't know. Maybe Dave is a small bit more dynamic, but he'll probably make up for it with his scrummaging. So yeah, look, that's like for like for me. There's not a whole lot of difference there. That would have been a good run. Would have been nice to see Hendy open up there.
Mate, he can open up as well.
Yeah,
he can really open. Quick. Yeah, he's quick.
Because he can play. He played 6 quite a bit.
Yeah,
he's a great player. It's good to see him back fit. He's had a few injuries over the last couple of years.
He's a nailed on line as well, right? So he's going.
I think so, yeah.
How much better does somebody like Paul O'Connell help guys like that? So what like Paul O'Connell coming in, is he helping individuals like that to become even better?
Yeah, I'd say that's a big part of what he's doing, because I know he's obviously running the line-out, but as regards the team sessions and stuff, he probably wouldn't have a whole lot of input. I know he's not, you know, formalising plays and stuff, but I think where his real value would be one-on-one, working with guys, you know, off the training pitch, how they're communicating, what's their decision-making process. And
nice.
Just Paulie as a leader was probably the best we've had in Ireland. So he's a great guy to just even be around in camp, such a positive guy, and that's a lovely play. England, when they play like this, are great. They just ran out of numbers there. But moving the point of contact, when they move the point of contact like this, you just feel like you're chasing your tail. You feel like you can't get a hit on them. You know, they feel like they're running away from you all the time.
I think it helps. They've got so many big blokes, you know, so like every collision is a big collision for the opposition. I love that change up there from England. So they run what, like the whatever we call it. Let's call it like a star. They run the star the first time, then they run the star tunnel. Do you know what I mean? So they went, actually, you know what? We're in exactly the same shape. Ireland was super aggressive last time. If we get it in our wingers' hands, skip out the 10, then actually they bury themselves. But Ireland actually then sat on that one a little bit and let it develop in front of them, which is really good. So, you're right. England, when they get quick ball and they're on top of you, they just somehow sort of suffocate you a bit, don't they? They're almost sort of
well, you've got
really strong,
like Sinclair, Vunipola brothers, Itoje, like their ability to tip the ball on, play those little star balls out the back. But then if they feel like the defender opposite them is anyway passive, they'll just get the foot down and run straight over you. Oh, yes. Go on, Earlsy. Finish it. Finish it.
I'm behind here.
Oh, get it. Come on. Very good. What a first try.
No, what a finish.
Oh, look.
See, I told you Keith Earls was great.
Yes, that was brilliant.
That was great. So there's a worry for you, right? So if you're a coach now, if any of us are coaching in the room, how do you solve that? So France have just walked through you with the ball over the top, Slade making a poor read, and they did exactly the same thing, and they've ripped through England. So let's have a look.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Curry follows
one.
it. Lovely.
So obviously I'm sure you guys have had it in the Premiership, but like referees now are really defending that if it's a maul, you're not allowed to move within the 10 meters until it moves off the mark. But the interesting one is with the overthrow, when a ball leaves the hooker's hands, you're actually allowed to move. You're allowed to go straight away. But if it's caught in the line out, you then have to retreat back the 10. So it creates real confusion because it's a lot of teams, like you're depending on a defensive system. So, let's say a maul is set up. You're then deciding who's taking first set of hands, who's taking second set of hands, where the blind winger is going. Whereas you throw in a ball over the top like that, it could be caught 20 meters from the touchline. It could be caught 25 meters from the touchline. There could be options inside and outside that player. There's a lot of movable things happening there. So for a defense coach, it's a bit of a nightmare because they can't sit down and say, right, you take this guy, you take that guy, and we're sorted. There's a lot of moving parts. So you're depending and relying on guys making good defensive decisions. And it's happening so quickly. And look, France did it really well last week, and maybe Ireland spotted a weakness, and it's worked really well for them there.
Yeah.
There's a question from James in Royston. What can be done to manage long lineouts, and are they here to stay? Ian, you've given quite a decent answer there, but do you think they're here to stay? Do you think all teams are looking at how they can manage this? Can they use it as a weapon?
Like long lineouts is in the maul, is it, or
the ball over the top?
Oh, the ball. Oh, look, I think it's a great change up. It's guaranteeing that the ball's going to be in play. I like it as an option. Especially a big. I don't like defending them when it gets thrown to the 12 and he's running straight down my channel. But
honestly, it unsettles you because it's not what you're supposed to do. So actually, then you start questioning about the overthrow, and you're thinking, actually, if they're picking that one off, then your back pod probably doesn't go up. So then it opens up the back pod, right? So or the back third of the lineup. So it's a really clever play for mine to get it in early. No Curry's going to overchase because he's keen. No Vunipola might not be as switched on because his normal job is to be lifting the back pod. And then actually that awareness of it, and then it's basically like, that's why I was asking about what Murray was going to do. Rugby's just become this sort of, especially international level, it's become testosterone aggressive fueled chess. It's working out because from my point of view, most, as you know, Ian, as well, these guys do their jobs, as we talked about before, and they do their jobs really well, and you can trust them to do their jobs. And so rugby at this level sometimes can be simpler than club level, or even certainly other levels, because you've got this awareness of what they're going to do. And so almost what you're trying to do is outthink and outsmart the opposition by making them do things that they don't want to do, that brings them out of that system. And so there's almost, you're creating distrust in the opposition because they're not quite sure about what's happening. That's how I sort of see it.
No, I like that. Like, and how to defend a maul. Everyone knows that. How to defend a right-hand side scrum. We all know how to do that as defenders. But let's say a team wins a short restart. Like, teams don't practice that in training.
No.
Your team is all over the place. You've got forwards mixed with backs, front row forwards in the middle of the pitch. If you can win a short restart, that is absolute golden to attack with. Just like, an overthrow and a line out there. That's why turnover ball is great. And that's when you can see at international rugby, when, let's say, a kick gets blocked down or someone throws an intercept, that's when it opens up, because teams can't rely on what they've been practicing on in training. They've been shown something that's unexpected, and you've got to deal with it, and you've got to defend with guys that you're not used to, opposite guys who are, potentially far more agile than you. And like, that's exactly what's happened with Keith Earls there. It's effectively a one-on-one with Vunipola, who's coming off the back of the line out. It's a great mismatch, and one that a winger is going to be winning 9 times out of 10.
What do you reckon to that? Could Johnny May have done more defending Keith Earls? Does that play into what you said, Ian, that he wasn't expecting it? It's not something he would have practiced?
Yeah, small bit, yeah. But look, in fairness, that's bloody tough. You've got someone with great feet and good speed coming at you.
With the whole pitch.
Ideally, you want... Even if you had someone tracking back with them, that he could say he's got one side, and Johnny with his speed can shepherd him to another side. But it looked to me like a true one-on-one, and he's just been done for feet. Like, I think if it's on the other side of the coin, I think Johnny May's probably scoring it as well. Like, and it comes back to those wingers. They seem to have disagreements.
Oh, here they come. Here's the reinforcements, Toby.
Here they come. Mate.
Here they come. That's
it. So Rugby.
That's what I like to see.
Yeah, it's lovely to see. It's just what you want. Right, guys. Hello. You all right? Yeah?
Aww.
You good? This is my youngest. This is Ted. The whole world. Anyway, Edie, sausage, you gonna close the door? What are you watching? Yeah.
Daddy's on TV.
Eddie, out.
Edie, go sausage.
Eddie, out, please.
Don't worry, that's fine.
You've not got any of that carnage, Ian, have you?
Not yet, no. Myself and Anna got a puppy there recently. That's about the height of it.
No, yeah. Enjoy it, mate. It's great fun. You can't do anything. Yeah, so it's good. That's quite sweet. Yeah, all right. They're fine. I think you just come back from the park, so we're all right. A bit tired. Fingers crossed. No screaming, no tantrums.
What's the story when you go on tour? One of the clips that I got sent again this week, I think it might have been because it was Zebo's birthday, but the Lions clip where Conor Murray kicks the ball out with 30 seconds to go because Zebo tells him to kick it out. It's amazing to hear that those things are still happening. Those stupid sort of schoolboy little antics are happening. But that's gold. Is there anything that comes close to that?
Yeah, we had a good one there on tour. We were in South Africa it was in New Zealand, and I can't remember the misdemeanor, but myself and Fergus McFadden got kicked off the bus, phone, wallet taken off you, and you just had to make your own way back to the hotel. So it was actually a good way of getting to know the locals, begging them for a lift. But yeah, look, stuff like that's great, and that's what it's all about, being on tour and good team building exercise. But yeah, that one with Zebo is one of my all-time favorites, having to ring the coach to request to be captain when Zebo's not captain material at all.
I love the whole thing. I love how Conor Murray delivers it and everybody just cracks up, and then Zebo having to do that is just absolute gold.
No, I mean, it's ridiculous that you think you're on a Lions trip, like one of the biggest tours of your life, and you're there just laughing at your mate who you may have cost a test place to. It's just genius. It's a different level, that. I'd kick him, I reckon. I think I'd kill him. I remember, do you know what you just reminded me of? I went to New Zealand with England a while ago, long time ago, and so my mates of mine you talk about New Zealand, how it's just a bit weird. And so mates of mine were traveling. So it was like, we must have been just, like 20, I think like 22, 23, whatever. And I sort of got them into the hotel and stuff and sort of caught up with them and stuff. Was the night, I do talk about hanging out with the locals and stuff. And they'd been sort of feral for like 8 months ago. And I was trying to catch up with my mates, and I was like, oh, lads, how you getting on? And all they would do was like, like a dog, you say you got a puppy there, you've got like a bit of food. You know how the dog just stares at the food? All they were doing was staring at the shower or the bathroom, and I was like, because they stank, mate. They absolutely stank. So like They all of them. Like I sat in the room and I was like, at the end, I looked like I was running some sort of like weird sort of brothel sort of thing. Because all these lads were in towels, sat on my bed. It looked like I was having some sort of weird sex party in my room. I don't know what's going on. And the guy, I got to remember at the beginning. And the boys rang me, and the people at reception rang me and went, I think there's some people down here for you, but like they can't be for you. And they look literally like scarecrows come up the stairs. Horrible. But it always tickles me that. It's a good place, New Zealand, to tour though. When you get if you're not involved in the squad, I don't think I was the first weekend. That was a good fun trip. I mean, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of people to see.
Yeah.
It's a great
people.
spot. Good people. Love their rugby. Hello. I tell you what, though, this is going back to this rugby. This is really Ireland impressive here. Really impressive.
Yeah, no, it's been a good opening 30. Getting the edge in the scrums a couple of times. Like saw free kick, 5 out from the line, another penalty there. Both sides are actually struggling with the restarts a bit, kind of getting access each time.
Look at that press from Ireland, though. Look.
Yeah, this is a big passage of play now for England. I think the English skills hasn't been like that epitomizes it there for me, the Six Nations. Their skills haven't been what I've come to expect from an English side. When I think of England, I'm thinking slick passing, guys running onto the ball with speed, good interplay with the forwards. For me, I like England are consistently probably the best side at that.
You sort of see that this week, like that's poor from Ben Youngs, great from Curry to get it back, good from George Forrest to get to the line, and then just a poor pass. It's all like I think that summarises England, as you say. It's like we're good at we're good at some bits, we're not great at other bits at the moment, which is weird.
No,
but why is that? What does an international coach do? Because the international coach is not going to make that passing any better.
He still can though. You can put an emphasis on it. You can be bringing it up in meetings and saying, "Look, have a look at these. This ball is checked. This guy, if he doesn't get checked, it's going an extra pass. It's an extra 5 meters. It's an extra 10 meters." If the messaging from the coaches is clear and he's driving it with the drills he's doing in training, I still think you can see good improvements. Like by no means, just because they're international players, you can't think right. We're not going to see improvement here. And that would have been a big thing that Joe Schmidt did. He used to love putting two back lines against each other. And as simple as it is, and we probably did it in mini rugby, you do a race from one side of the pitch to the other as back lines. And, as professional athletes, we're all competitive against each other. You want to be winning. But you can see as clear as day on the video who's letting the team down and who's not fluid with their passing. And it is a big part of it. But for me, for whatever reason, the English team, especially early on in this competition, they just weren't as fluid as against Scotland. It didn't work. There was too many balls down, too many handling errors, and
I think I think like as well. I think you're dead right. I couldn't agree more. You can still definitely get better, but England's mentality is poor. So it just doesn't work, and it keeps not working. You can't quite find that. They just sort of seem to be in a rut, like. And it seems like this error again, like the scrum error, just making the same mistake again. But I don't understand why. I know sometimes you'll back yourself and think that you're not going to get done again. But it just seems to be this sort of they don't seem to understand the repercussions of their actions to a point. Sometimes it's very odd. It's very odd.
Yeah.
Sorry, by the way, I didn't straight across.
No, it must be frustrating. Like watching them making repetitive errors. That's
not if you're Irish.
No, not for me. It's not. Those scrum penalties, like that could well win us the game. Get out of there, I told you. Get him out of there.
He's too good. Oh no, yeah. His turnover in that. Oh no. Oh, Johnny.
Another score here now for Ireland could make us difficult to peg back at home. But yeah, England have had plenty of opportunities in the 30 meters in from the Irish line and haven't really looked like doing a whole lot.
No, they just seem to be a phase or two short, don't they, from really turning the screw.
Yeah.
Oh, good carry. Lucky.
They've not really built. This is probably the longest phase of play for a long time. There's not really been a huge amount of phases built by either team.
A lot of it's
No.
one off, though, isn't it? You know, it's one off again. That's poor.
Well, I suppose it goes back to what we were saying before the game. You know, if Ireland had been questioned with their physicality, you know, they might want to try and impose it on England. You know, actually, we can run over the top of you. We are willing to take the physical fight to you, and it might not be pretty to watch, but it might be with their sort of mindset is to try and just take it and just say, you know, we'll have a crack at you.
That was much better.
Yeah, that's good to watch.
Moving the point of contact a bit.
Yeah.
2 passes, better again. Good after Vunipola here.
Oh, the back. I think I'm just behind you.
This is a very good passage of play by Ireland. This is similar to what we were putting together in the second half against Scotland. You know, it's good to see us not resorting to the high ball too much. Could have easily just put that up from when they were on the halfway line. Yeah. I'm not mad on this. If it works out, so be it. But it does. Fair play.
Oof.
Everybody's been involved in this.
Yeah. There you go. We deserve 3 points. Is that a penalty advantage? Give it. Go on, Jacob.
Yeah, you're a supporter.
Do we have a penalty advantage here? Was he just saying it was our possession?
Yeah.
No, I think he's got his arm out.
Yeah, it is. This attack is worth every bit of that try. Go on, Ireland. That was brilliant. That was a great passage of play. Best Ireland have put together in this competition.
That's proper.
Yeah, that's really, really good.
Proper.
Going from the halfway line, side to side, mixing up the kicking, getting up the area battle.
Yeah, that try is will not win try of the tournament. I'll tell you that now. But that is probably the try of the tournament. As a rugby purist, you've got absolutely everything in that, and it's fantastic to watch.
So
really smart.
You both like being the first receiver because you wear number 10, but there, Keith Earls found himself there at least twice. Bundy Aki found himself there. So when you're training and preparing, does it get that loose that you get lots of people stepping in at first receiver as you're marshalling and getting ready for the next 2 or 3 phases time?
You generally find in training, like, guys are a lot braver than they are in games. You get guys going, oh yeah, I can play 10, you know. But then when it comes to games, no one wants to step up. Like, they realize there's, you know, a lot less time, there's more on the line, and there aren't too many guys in that queue when it comes to games.
Yeah, I think in training you have to sometimes coax people in to be first receiver. But I saw you think back to sort of Leicester when I was there. We had Geordie Murphy who used to rock up at first receiver quite a lot. Anthony Allen used to rock up at first receiver. And it helps you massively because you spend a lot of time living in that moment of going ruck, pass, ruck, pass, ruck, pass. You almost sort of, your vision is so narrowed, and actually then have else come in and stand there, and you can get your eyes up for that extra 3 or 4 seconds and look left and right and actually then ascertain what's going on. So to have those secondary and the tertiary ball players in your setup is massive. And, you know, for Sexton there to be able to have a feel for the game and see what's happening rather than just going, you know, on the not hearsay, but the information of others in breaks and small breaks, will have a chat or further when actually he's able to see it live is just so crucial. So, yeah, I mean, Ireland look like a serious team today.
Is Sexton like having a coach on the field? Is he a big extension of the coaching team?
Very much so, yeah. Yeah, he'd be working closely with the coaches, you know, before the team even comes into camp about, you know, what he'd be looking to implement himself and you know, stuff that we'd be working with Leinster that he think could work in the Irish setup. I'm sure he'd be working very closely with the coaches on that. And he's very good on the strategy side of things. If one thing's not working in a game, he's brave enough to change it within a match. You know, I think one of the things as players we can get into a habit of is, you know, reviewing after a game, going, oh, we could have done this, we could have done that. Like, that's not worth anything. The game's over. Like, the moment is past. It takes a lot for a player to change something in a game. You know, 25 minutes in, going, look, this isn't working. This is how the team is defending. Let's go to this. And I think Johnny's probably the master at that. And oh, brilliant. That rolling rule. Oh, I actually thought he knocked it on there.
I did as well.
Yeah,
That's what I thought you were talking. Yeah.
that was a big play there for England. Like, you know, even if they get 3 points there, get it back to 20-9 before halftime.
You see Eddie Jones had a look at the clock there, isn't he? Just trying to work out what's going on. A question about Johnny Sexton, I sort of popped on the screen. Like, you've got to remember, like, Irish players, when they're run by the union, especially when they're centrally contracted, they play about 3.5 games a year for their province. So I've always looked. I enjoy watching Rory Best stats when it was like 112 games for Ireland, 14 games for Ulster.
That's Sam Warburton's like that. Sam Warburton almost played more games for the Lions than he did for his team in Wales.
Yeah.
No, I'm very teasing, but the Irish system's brilliant for their national side because they look after their players, and whereas English is, you've been there it's a tough old league. There's no given wins. And also, there's no time to rest because relegation is that constant threat for all teams, really. So, I think he's massive, Brian, and he can keep playing as long as he still has that drive. And by the sound of things, he's as competitive human being out there as there is. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. One thing that the Irish system definitely does allow the likes of, let's say, Johnny and Keith Earls, as we see running off there, it does allow them to try and peak for certain times of the year. So peak for the Autumn Internationals, peak for the Six Nations. Whereas when you're playing in the Premiership, you're rolled out every single week. Every week's a competitive game. The reality is when Leinster are playing against Zebra or Treviso, they don't need Johnny Sexton to play. The second choice guy can run the show. The third choice guy can possibly run the show, and they're still going to win the game. The Premiership doesn't give you that luxury. So, and look, the nature of the games are they're not as tough physically either. So, there are when we're playing interprovincial games, Leinster v Munster, Ulster v Connacht, they're bloody tough games, but they're not 24 of them in a season like there is with the Premiership. So, there is more of a focus in Ireland on the European Cup, whereas, correct me if I'm wrong, Toby, but I'd probably say the Premiership and the European Cup at best would be on parity, whereas in Ireland it's very clear that European Cup is number one, and that's where the Irish teams have to be, the Irish provincial teams have to be performing, and that's how we're measured each year. Minimum for us then is probably making semi-final, for in our league, whereas for you guys in the Premiership, it's so competitive. Top 6 could be a great result.
Yeah, no, massively. I always vividly remember when we played Ulster, obviously where you are now, but at Leicester, I think we got them 2 or 3 years in a row in Ireland Cup, and we go over there on a Friday night at Ravenhill. It was, a great occasion, loved it, but you knew that Rory Best and his mates were being rested the week before, so you come off the back of Northampton away, biggest game of your season, for the local derby, and then suddenly you've got to turn it around. And there are pros and cons to both. But as you become an elder statesman in your profession, you realise how important those rest weeks are to get yourself. Because someone like Roy Best at the age of 28 to whatever he would have been at the time, 32, he knows how to play rugby. So he doesn't get nervous about doing his job. He just gets nervous about the occasion. So actually, he could just rest off for a week and sit back and relax and go at it again. And I think that was always our gripe, really. And it's nothing to do with Ireland, or it's just a system that both countries run. But it was almost like these guys are getting a week off and suddenly we've got to back it up, and it's pretty tough. But
it is. Yeah, like I had some good conversations with Jordan Crane, who was probably in the team that you were playing with there. And
he would have been, yeah.
It was a big gripe of his, and even from a conditioning perspective, like when you're playing week in, week out, so let's say you're playing Saturday game after Saturday game, the reality is you're coming in on Monday, you're good, you're stiff and sore. Tuesday, you're getting through it. Wednesday, you're getting a good training session done. And then Thursday on, you're thinking, I'm going into another game here. You're looking to get your body right as opposed to pushing on. Whereas when you get a week off, where you go Saturday game and you're not playing to the following Saturday, you've got 14 days to work with. Within that, you can feasibly get 5 or 6 conditioning sessions in, be it gym work, working on your agility, your fitness, your skills. And that's a big part of the game. And like those weeks off, they accumulate, and those sessions accumulate. And when you get to the business end of the season, when, for example, Leicester are playing Leinster in the semi-final of Europe, you can be guaranteed that those players are both fresher mentally because they haven't had to get themselves up for a game every weekend, but they're also fresher physically as well. So it does definitely accumulate over a season. And I'll be honest with you, I find sometimes in England they almost rely on getting injured to freshen up. You know, players get a hamstring tear and it's nearly like a relief. It's like, oh my God, well at least look, I'm going to get a chance to rejuvenate for 3 or 4 weeks here, mentally get a switch off, and I'll be ready to go again. Because it's nearly unattainable to think that you could go 5 or 6 years straight of 30 games a year. Like you just don't see it anymore.
No, I've got old man knee at the moment, and it's given me like 4 weeks off, which is great. So I'm kind of feeling I shouldn't say that out loud, should I? But I'm really enjoying it. Hence why I'm having a drink of Guinness, which is it's good for you. It's got loads of iron in it, so it's good for
absolutely.
Of course it is. Gentlemen, I'm absolutely loving this. The two of you have been magnificent. Now we're going to give you a break because we're going to hear from the sponsors, Glen Turret. So you've got a couple of minutes to catch your breath. Now, because you've given us so much insight in the first half, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A with some of the viewers' questions because I think you've given them so much. They've got some questions. So when we come out of this ad, we're going to fire up some questions on the screen from the people that are joining us, and be ready, be on your toes is all I'll say. So without any further ado, gentlemen, grab yourself a break and we'll hear from our sponsors, Glen Turret Whiskey.
Here, at Scotland's oldest working distillery, everything we do is underpinned by the 3 touchstones of the Glen Turret Trinity: provenance, prowess, and passion. Our extraordinary provenance is founded upon the long history of this special place, the remarkable endeavours of past generations of owners and distillers, and the unique character of the new make spirit that continues to define the Glen Turret today. Our traditional prowess is built upon the skill and expertise that goes into handcrafted whisky making. An unusually slow distillation process, and a resolute commitment to small batch production. Finally, our enduring passion reflects our continuing fascination with the tradition of distilling. Our delight in every step of the whisky-making journey, and our deep desire to bring whisky lovers moments to treasure, in spirit and glass. The Glen Turret. By hand and heart since 1763.
Finished from 45 yards. So Ireland in a great position now in the kind of top that in the second half. Guys, that's really, really good. The feature of the game is sometimes people watch and get a bit frustrated by.
Yeah, it's been absolutely on point. Yeah,
It beat me again.
Proactive kicking with the aim of completely swinging momentum. And you saw that in Ireland's 23 phases. It wasn't really.
You got the TV on, Ian?
Earlier in the game.
No, that's not me.
And the idea
That's me.
That's Toby.
I was just listening to Johnny Wilkinson light up the world. Sorry, I do apologise.
Love it.
Anyone watch that? You watched that Bear Grylls thing? Anyone seen it yet?
No, I didn't see it. I saw a lot of people getting excited about it.
Was it? I cannot wait. I'm excited. I want to see what he says. It's going to be amazing.
Right, gentlemen, we've got some business to do first, and then we'll get into this Q&A. Now, folks at home have got a chance to win a bottle of Glen Turret whiskey, so that's for the man of the match. Who do you think is lining up? Who can you give a little bit of insight to that might be picking up man of the match?
Well, it's definitely going to be coming from someone Irish. Wearing green off the back of that first half. It's not going to be anyone in the English setup. I think Johnny's run the game really well first half. He's been on it. He's kicked his goals, kept Ireland moving forward. He's moved the ball well. So he's definitely going to be in contention. I think Jack Conan scoring his try there. If he gets over for another one, he's going to be in the mix himself. They'd be my top two, I'd say.
Toby, thoughts?
Yeah. I agree with Ian. I think Sexton's managing it really well, kicking well. I'd stick a number on Conan as well. If he has a bit more of a big influence in the second half, especially with that try under his belt, he could be a shot as well.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, good stuff. If you've got a picture of your setup, get those into us and you win a Rugby Bash hamper. So the best setup with your screen, with us, with your beers, with your snacks, send us in. We've had some unbelievable entries in the ones previous to this. One of them won in Nairobi, which was pretty cool with the braai set up outside and the outside screen. So that went down very nicely. So get your pictures into us at Rugby Bash on Twitter with the hashtag Rugby Bash. Now, Toby, we've got somebody special watching who would love to hear from you. He's known as Terry from the Stoop, and he's pretty well known on social media. He's pretty active. He's been involved in quite a few of these supporting England. Great guy who's having a tough time at the moment battling with cancer. So he's keen to hear from Toby Flood. Have you got a message for him?
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks, I suppose, for sort of supporting Newcastle when Leicester, we sometimes went to the Stoop and lost, which would be good for you. I tell you, I'm really sorry to hear about the cancer scenario, but I know these are difficult times for all of us. But mate, fingers crossed everything goes well, and actually then we can see you back on the terraces, back at the Stoop, which is a great ground to play at, and the boys love it there. So it'd be great to see you back there.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, gentlemen, let's fire through these. We've got some questions coming in thick and fast. So let's see. They've actually been pretty busy in the first half. So, Toby, did you prefer playing in Toulouse or in England?
Oh, look, 95% of me wants to say Toulouse because it was amazing and it's a great spot. As Ian knows, France is a great place to go and play. But the one thing I sort of found difficult was the lack of consistency in the sport, I suppose I want to say, in terms of how they prepared and how they played. And that always frustrated me because I probably went from the most rigorous environment at the time in Leicester and then jumped to France. And so it was quite a change. But look, I'm English and I love the boys here and it's great fun. But Toulouse will always be, like Ian said before, is a real special place to play in terms of obviously in France. But it's a great place to go and do something. It was good fun.
What was France like for you, Ian?
Yeah, I loved it. Similar to Toby, it was a great experience. France, a fantastic country, great people, and but at the end of the day, we're professionals, and the environment there can be challenging. Not because it's wrong, but it's because probably we're not what we're used to. And the inconsistencies, as Toby touched on, was definitely something that I found difficult in the time that I was there. But I've had great times here in Ireland with Leinster and now with Ulster, and while the weather and stuff doesn't always lend itself to playing rugby, like that's not what it's all about. And I think if you're enjoying your trade, it certainly makes up for the weather and that side of things that you have to deal with. So no, look, I love my time in France, but I'm certainly happy to be back on home soil now.
And I know every situation. Sorry, go for it, Toby.
Did you ever go to La Plage in Bordeaux?
Yeah, I was there a few times, all right.
I honestly, Corey, I've not been and I've never been, truth hand on heart. But we went there, we beat Bordeaux my first year back at Newcastle, and a few boys went there. And Dean Richards had to go pick a few boys up from the police cell.
Oh, God. Yeah, look, we
got into a bit of a scrap with some French boys.
Yeah, there used to be trouble there.
These boys, genuinely, they were honest as day, got jumped. But the moment Dean Richards walked into the police, whatever it is, station, And they were like, Monsieur Richards. And they had champagne with him at like 8:30 in the morning and a photograph of Dean Richards.
That's sport outfit.
So Dean's walked into the cell with these two boys who have not slept a week. And he's like, God, cheers, boys. And I'm like, it's like a glass of champagne to take the piss out of it. Brilliant.
I love it.
Yeah.
There you go. Right, Lions. Now, we could be here all day on this, so just hit us with some names. Toby, English players that you think are absolutely stick-on Lions?
From front to back, Sinclair, Vunipola, Atoje, Curry will go. Youngs will probably go. Farrell will go. Forwards tight with Sexton, depending on what they do with the 10. Lawrence won't go. May will go, and Watson will 100% go. More May's tight. 100% Watson though.
Ian, Irishman to go with the Lions?
Yeah, I think Tig's obviously nailed on. Probably one of the first names on the team sheet, I'd say. Yeah. James Ryan, I think, is in the second row would be another who's going to be fairly nailed on. I'd agree with Toby. It's going to be tight for the Irish halfbacks. Be it Jameson, Connor, Johnny. In fairness to Johnny, I think he's probably been the format half in the competition. So look, he's certainly put his hand up and he's shown he's still very much at the level. And then outside of that, I think Robbie Henshaw, as we've spoken about, Gary's going to be in the mix as well. The centre is open this year. Yeah, even like someone like George North, Foxy for John Davies stepping up for Wales. It's going to be really, really tight there. It's probably going to come down to how guys go in the preliminary games. But
they'll take Farrell. They'll take Farrell as the 12, I reckon. And you imagine it'll go something. If you're going to bet on it, would be, I don't know who'll be 10, but it'll go Farrell and Davies. I would imagine that would be my shot at the moment, probably. Although I'd like to see Henshaw, Ringrose in there. That's what they might go with. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? I was sort of chatting this the other day because no team has been dominant.
No,
it's left the door open for so many options, and that's been the really difficult. Normally in a year you've got a dominant side. I know Wales have been, and that will probably push a few of their boys in there. But actually, they've played all right, but they've not dominated because they got 16 red cards for them. So someone said to me in a meeting, they were like, "Look, Wales are 3 red cards away from the Grand Slam," and I'm like, "Yeah, they are." They are. So I mean, it's so tight, and Wales might win a Grand Slam and probably should win a Grand Slam, but haven't played amazing rugby,
Right, I've got a question. No, get rid of the Mike Brown one. We'll get to Mike Brown. I've got a question for you. Right, being a Scotsman, and I can see the pros and cons, so it's not too one-eyed. But Finn Russell, you're both have outstanding standoffs. Finn Russell, can he be the Lions starting 10?
Yeah, he definitely can be, but he's got to find a way to be a bit more consistent. He hasn't been consistent in the Six Nations, and he'd say that himself. I'm a massive fan of how Finn plays the game. He's off the cuff, and when he's on, he's without doubt, for me, he's the best in the world. And when he's playing in that Racing team, I think he can get away with some of the mistakes he makes. That he's playing with such quality that guys can cover him. It doesn't work out. Look, we'll cover you, we'll defend well, we'll get the ball back, we'll go again. He's getting, let's say 20, 25 good attacking opportunities in a game. With Scotland, he's probably getting about half that. And when he makes a mistake, it's really hurting the side. And I think he almost realises that himself. And I think he can end up forcing things when he's playing for Scotland. He's not as instinctive as when he is with Racing. But look, if he can refine the form he had in last year's kind of European Cup, there's no reason why he can't be the starter. But for me, probably not at the moment. I don't know what you're thinking, Toby.
Yeah, I think they're almost different. They're different players, aren't they? Racing Russell compared to Scotland Russell, and as you say, like you hit everything on bang on. It's Racing. I can make a mistake because we'll get the ball back in a couple of minutes. And we're really good. There's no issue there. Whereas Scotland don't get the ball back. Apart from that England game where they dominated England, with the carriers they have and the people, the personnel they have, they don't get the ball back so quickly. So all of his mistakes are magnified. And I think that he's almost carrying the weight of I need to do something at Scotland, whereas actually at Racing, give it to Vakatawa. Do you know what I mean? Zebo will do something for me. You know what I mean? Like, it was. I remember always. I sort of tell the story to the young lads coming through when they get a bit worried about stuff. I said, look, I always played at Leicester where we ran the shape. You know, like it's kind of the one that goes a short guy, a guy at the back, and a guy like hiding. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of like three shape. And I had Alassana Tuolangi, Manu Tuolangi, and Nicky Gonagher running those lines. So I was what they call the best decision maker in the world because I could to anyone. It was a good decision, and that was basically what I was trying to say to them. Like, lads, don't stress about things. And I think that's what Finn has at this time in Racing is kind of go, yes, I'm a magician, and when I get things right, I am probably one of the best 10 in the world, if not the. But I can also make errors because people will mop up my problems, and I think you're dead right. I think he goes, but the thing that. The problem with the lines is Gatland's always historically picked 2. And so if they put Farrell at 12, which they did last time, they took Bigger and Sexton. I think Sexton, Ian's dead right. I think Sexton goes, and it's then a real big toss-up between Ford and Russell. That's the big one. It's which one they go with. Do they go with the relationship between Farrell and Ford and the fact they probably don't need a tour to learn each other because there is no tour this year? It's going to be quite quick and it's going to be straight to test matches. Or do they take a punt on Russell, knowing that he could probably do better things than Ford, certainly pulling things out the hat, but that time to bed in with potentially who your line's 12 is, whether Farrell, whoever, might not be there. It's a really, really interesting,
Yeah, I'd certainly I'd like to see him go. I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah.
I like the way he plays. It's good for the game. And like when he's on, he's just an absolute joy to watch. And I think that's what the Lions is all about as well. You know, we want good representation from all sides. And look, he's probably the talisman for Scotland along with the likes of Hogg. So it'd be great to see the two of them doing, working their magic for the Lions.
I wonder if it wasn't South Africa, I wonder if it was Australia, he would get to go no problem. But because it's South Africa, so strong, he'd got to kick goals, got to be on it, got to play field position that he might just not have or Gatland might not have the faith in him to do that job. That's my sort of worry on it. But
yeah, and I think you're dead right. I think you need to carry a goal kicking member of your side elsewhere. You know, you look at those kicks against Wales, you're like, actually, a couple of those streak over somehow. Yeah. Scotland probably are uncatchable, or they've certainly dominated the game. So that's always been the part of this game where you worry that it might let them down at those clutch moments. So, yeah, that's the problem. So you almost by picking him, Russell, if you're going to take him, you have to play Farrell. That's or someone of that ilk, and that's the reality of it. You know, it all goes back to those years when the Lions went to South Africa in '97, where Jenkins
was at 15.
Yeah, one of the all-time great fullbacks who couldn't catch a high ball and hated contact and didn't like tackling, yet somehow made the Lions trip because
Gregor was at 10 and couldn't kick goals. Yeah, Toby. Ian, I love that that England had the pressure and Ireland get to relieve it because we had one of these at the line out.
Yeah, I know. Oh God, jeez, it's been some start. That's some fast-paced 7 minutes. They both teams going out. Very interesting. Eddie making those changes at halftime. You know, it's a good indication that he would have been fuming with how that first half went. You know, it's rare you see them make them at halftime. Generally, a coach, if he's very upset, he'll still give a player probably 5 minutes at the start of the second half to try and prove himself. For him to make that decision at halftime is big. And I like the two changes he's making. I'm a big fan of Ellis Gange and who's come on at hooker there, George.
Yeah.
It's
almost, you touched on before the game, or how Howling and go against the scrum, etc., etc. But then Ireland's dominance in the scrum with 2 or 3 penalties out of the back of it, it's just meant that England are just sort of trying to recover a bit. It's been very impressive.
Yeah, I still don't think this is over. I can actually
No.
If Ireland score again here now, it's going to be bloody tough to get back. But if England can hold them out, another 3 points.
Great carry.
What was the point of Stockdale coming in as first receiver off that line out?
Just, I reckon, for his carrying. Just big guy, dynamic. Good use of your blind winger, and then you're still left with your full back line.
It was also a hit back play, right?
Yes.
Why am I behind? I hate this. What's happened? Oh, shut up.
Oh, such a scuzzy little kick.
I think that's the best, worst kick I've ever seen.
Straight
that
off
is
the
awful.
shin, just below the knee.
Oh my god. So yeah,
let's just give it Keith Earls man of the match.
Yes, I called it. No,
Yeah.
I said it.
Yeah.
I said Keith Earls. On the Stockdale thing as well, it gives you a bit that extra width. So you've kind of used your winger to carry it with the back of the line, which beds down the back of the line out, and then he's, as you say, he's got a good skill set, which then opens up. It was like a straight hit back play, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, you've opened up the space there by just extending it, and also probably throwing something. It's rare you would use your winger in a hit back play anyway, because normally they would hide somehow and then come back on that short line. Whereas actually to hide him there is impressive. It's definitely a knock on, by the way.
We spoke before we hit go live.
That's a knock on.
You said you did.
It may have gone backwards.
You said you didn't want to be a coach. The way you're talking, this is all set up for Toby Flood to become a coach.
Well, you know what? I've just found out you're up at Oh, that's definitely a knock on. Keir Healy's definitely not that on. 100%. Yeah, look, if there's a job going at Merchiston, let me know. It's only up the road.
Hey, absolutely.
Yeah, well.
I think I'll be getting removed as assistant coach the first 15 for Toby Flood. I've just stitched myself up there.
I'll only work below you. You know that. That's where it works.
Well, we just
great
had
decision.
One of the kids that's just come out of here, Jamie Doby, who's just out of school last year, signed straight to Glasgow, and now he's in the Scotland squad. He's playing scrum half for Glasgow. He's just had an unbelievable.
Wow!
I actually played against him a few weeks ago. He's a fantastic player. Yeah. Ulster played Glasgow, and he was probably the sharpest guy on the pitch that night.
He's unreal.
He's a tall enough fella, isn't he? Was he close to 6 foot? Is he?
He was a tennis player. He came here to play tennis. His agility and speed are just, and his coordination is just off the hook. Kids, he's one of those annoying bastards because he's good at everything. He was captain of school, straight A's for A levels, goes straight to Glasgow as a professional. He's in the Scotland squad. He's one of those annoying little bastards, good at everything. And he was also a tennis player. He plays golf. He's one of those.
Tiny penis though, so that's fine.
Ireland's like that, Ian. There's heaps of kids. I mean, the way the school system and the conveyor belt. Toby said earlier about the next one off the rack. The conveyor belt of talent, especially down in Leinster. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, the school system in Leinster now, like they're especially like you see a school like St. Michael's that only have 80 pupils a year, but they're rolling out nearly eight professionals a year. I don't know how they manage to do it, but they're in a way the school itself, or some of the top schools in Leinster, Blackrock College and Clongowes and Ternier and Belvedere, these kind of schools, they're nearly like academies in their own right. They've got kind of high performance gyms. They've got really good coaches. The actual rugby knowledge of the players is really high because they've got good quality coaches in. They're training 4 or 5 times a week. They're playing competitive games. There's always lots of games in the Irish school system, which is something that I don't actually think you get enough of in England. From talking to some of the players over there, like when I was in school, I'd be playing up to 25 games a year, and that's the best way of learning. Whereas I don't know, maybe it's changed slightly, Toby, but I don't know. Maybe 10, 15 games, maybe.
Yeah, and I wasn't at a massive. I wasn't a massive rugby playing school. I went to a small school called King's Tynemouth, which it's just toured up north. So we only ever went as far as Barney Castle. Sorry, so that's as far as we went really. So yeah, I wasn't at a massive rugby playing school, and I remember like rocking up my first ever sort of. Just having a deep breath there. Ireland is just. Johnny Sexton is slapping that ball through the post. He's kicking, but it sounds like a silly thing to say. I don't think he's missed, but he's kicking really poorly for Johnny Sexton. He's actually not
those
hitting
outswingers. Yeah, I don't know.
He doesn't often hit outswingers, and he's hitting big slappy outswingers. I was going to say at the first kick of the game, right in front of the post, he hit a big old outswinger, and I looked at it thinking, if he has a tougher one than that, it might go the wrong way. And actually, well, that's what makes him great. Is he goes, you know what, I'm hitting outswingers today. I'm not hitting that well. That's my line now. Until it goes the other way, that's my line. It's clever. It's really clever.
Yeah, like that hitting that shape off the tee is pretty tough. Obviously, Lee Halfpenny's done it for years and done it really well, but I find it very difficult to move the ball left to right as a right footer. Like even the one he got against Scotland last week, the one out in the touchline. That for me is he hasn't that looks like it's come off his heel or something. I don't know, but no one was questioning it. Like it was just like.
I just find it hard to get them to the touchline, to be honest. So let alone the shape. That's the problem. It's a long way for me now, age 40. It's a long way to go. But this is massive. I think this next.
This is huge. This is the game for me right now.
Yeah,
52, 53 minutes.
They're going to get penalty.
Close to the 22.
Penalty.
Yeah, they need to get a 7 here. They need to get something to.
And we've all
get them back.
Ironically, with it being Ireland, you sort of imagine it. And I was fortunate to play a couple of times at Croke Park where the atmosphere was just incredible. But the games in Ireland can run away from you really quickly when they get up and the crowd get up and everything starts to feel. That's really poor from Daly. But when everything sees their foot, it's almost. Millennium Stadium-esque or Principality Stadium-esque, where just things start to go. And then once they start to go against this side, and the desire and the hunger thereof Ireland have is,
with Johnny there, every time they get access into your 10 meters, they're not coming back without points. Every time. No. It's 3s, it's 5s, it's 7s. And that's just, it's unrelenting, Yeah. But look, this is a huge passage here. It'll be interesting to see what they go with. They go one off. I think Ireland are just going to bar up now. They're
I've been fortunate enough to play a couple of World Cups and stuff, and when it gets pragmatic and it gets attritional, it's quite easy because all you got to do is just make a tackle. Sounds like a silly thing to say, right? But it's like you just got to front up. Once you front up, you're okay. It almost feels like a simple game, and I think that's where England sort of find themselves now is they need to do something a little bit different just to sort of break this apart. Well.
It's funny as well, when you're 23-6 up, you suddenly become 25% better in defense. I don't know what it is, but you just guys seem to make better decisions. They're not jumping out of the line. They're being patient.
What a piece of work. How good's he been this tournament? He's
Great.
Just.
But look at that, right? So I'm angry. You've just been stripped by the ball, like for the polar, and I'm sorry to see Farrell go down. I hope he's all right. But you don't walk back into the line. Like
I know.
He's so good, and I mean this. He's such a great player, and it's just almost seems like he's.
How quiet's Toby been today?
Yeah, apart from that first turnover in the first 2 minutes, very.
Crossing. Oh God, nothing's going England's way here.
No, that's just poor from Lawrence though. That's what makes you think it wasn't.
Yeah.
Early in the week, it's the 11th hour. Do you know what I mean? Because
it's absolute candy off it, baby stuff. Josh van der Flier, absolute beauty.
That's England's best ball carrier, and he's so good. So when you ask the Lions, I'm like, he pre-tournament, he's a dead set Lion for a Poland, 100%, and he's sadly he's played himself out of it,
And is that bad luck because he's at Sarries?
Don't know. I don't know if he's mentally struggling a bit at the moment. I don't know. He sort of seems to be sort of scratching around trying to find some form. Whether that is a preemptive moment of just the fact that he's not playing any games, or whether the world sort of, I don't know. That is a question I think only he can answer.
This is going to be interesting. So you've just had Vunipola stripped to the ball. Farrell's having to go off. Leadership's been questioned. So who steps up now? Who's stamping their feet saying, right, lads, come on, or this is going to run away from us?
Yeah, good question. So Itoje would be up there, obviously. Pre-tournament Lions captain. I'm just sorry, watching. Ben Youngs is still on the field, but Dan Robson's on. So Dan Robson's playing 10.
Who did they have as cover on the bench?
At 10,
They only have two backs, did they?
Yeah, so they've had to put.
I wonder what Malin's
Wow.
going down before the game. Did they not have anyone else to cover? Hardly.
Doesn't look like it. So Curry. So just to go through that one, Curry leads, Itoje leads, Earl leads, but they're not that experienced at international rugby, you know. Well,
Ben
Earl
Youngs
certainly-
is going to be stepping up, surely.
Yeah, has to be. He's the big driver. Yeah, he's only got 150 odd caps, or whatever it is. It's ridiculous.
There's Stockdale in again as first receiver.
Yeah. Look, and they're going to go back again. Look, see, which brings. Oh. So you can see what they're trying to do. Stockdale in at first, hit back, or certainly open up two sides. Watson has to go across really early to cover that space, which affects England's pendulum because they pin Daly. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, Ben Youngs has to be, you know, with the amount of caps he has. Like the fact that I met him pre-capped when he was like 19 or whatever is just some of the stories I have about Ben Youngs are probably not fit for here and now, but are certainly funny. I sort of forget that he's like, you know, the most capped England player because I'm just like, well, you're Ben Youngs. He used to do that in the change room, and then okay, fine, all right, you know, he's weird. He's a good boy. Big scrum, this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Surprised they go and scrum again. Just take that and play. You're whatever 17 points
but
down.
I think it's the way they're sort of, it's the way they're drilled at the moment, and also I think that, you know, you're buying 8 guys into the scrum, and do you potentially have a bit more space to attack?
Yeah.
I don't know, but you're right. As a
even
the
time's going to get away from it. Yeah, time's going to get away from here.
Time starts
22.
exactly
Yeah,
that.
you've 22 minutes. Another minute wasted now. You know, you've 21. You've got to score 3 times. It usually takes whatever 2 or 3
So
minutes to score.
Eddie took Ford off at half time.
Okay.
Is that the sort of roll of the dice? Is that?
I actually didn't even realise that. Okay,
No, there are. Yeah,
the 4 came off at half time. Interesting.
didn't see that.
So who came on then? Someone came on in the midfield then.
So
did they?
Marchand came on.
and then Lawrence. So he's basically gone down the route of their physical. You know, as we talked before, we can dominate Ireland physically, and he's gone down. They're physically dominating us, so therefore, man,
I wouldn't
think
have
that's-
taken forward off. That's mental.
no, not a chance. Not a chance.
No.
I'm taking forward off.
No.
He
Even
can do
for-
things on that pitch that many people can't, in terms of his
Yeah.
skill, in terms of his delayed pass, his awareness.
Yeah, even for how they would have gone in training, like he can be guaranteed. Now I know Farrell's off now; it's not particularly relevant, but just around the decision making of changing him at halftime, you can be sure that Farrell hasn't been playing much at 10 in training. So it's very different when you're running the team as a 12 and you're running the team as a 10. They're 2 completely different things. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see how Robson goes here. Actually, he's a fantastic footballer, and if he just plays heads up, see what he can do. But 2 inexperienced centres outside him. It's not like he's got someone like, you know, Gordon Darcy or Brian O'Driscoll outside him to tell him exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Not that
He's
either
got-
of them are English.
Yeah, can we get a transfer? Can we do that? Can we get bring a couple of good guys back.
Not like they've got Mike Cat outside him. Let's say it's
Yeah. Can we get Mike Cat and Jerry Guscott back involved, please, lads? That'd be great.
Here we go.
massive scrum.
Is that the ball game? Is that it all over?
Yeah, that's it done.
No, it has to be. Has to be.
Can I go now? Can I go away?
Monday thinks it's finished anyway. There you go. Like that's another prime example, Toby. Like we just talked about it there. Why are you re-scrumming that? The scrum hasn't been going well for England. Just tap and go. Get into your multi-phase. You know, get a soft edge.
Exactly. Or if you are going to go to the scrum, make it in and out. Get it in. Go. Just channel one it. Get it out. Right. So it's there for a split second. So you've got 16 guys tight, and there's no fear of getting turned over. But I mean, actually, to be honest, Ireland there have just walked through them like a cattle through a attack yard. That is ridiculous. I mean, that's.
I love when you see props get so excited when they do that. When they that's better than him scoring a try, winning that penalty. Look at the reaction for that.
That's better than his first child's birth, 100%. He's just smashed that. What are the top 3 things in life? 6 and 2003, and exactly. It's ridiculous. They just love it. I can't get my head around it, but they love it. It's really weird.
There you go, Toby. Here's another one. Should Sarries players have been left out? Hindsight's a great thing, I think, James.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been left out. I don't think they'd have been left out, but I think that it's so exactly. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, right? So you're thinking, oh well, but these guys are like proven performers in terms of Farrell, Atoje, the Vunipola brothers. They're Lions tourists. They're proper international players, and have done for the last 2 or 3 years. Set the tempo and set the sort of the level expected from England. So I don't think they should have been left out, but absolutely their form has been questioned because just they haven't been exposed to international rugby or any rugby really for a long time. And I mean this in the politest term of it. They're going to be spending a lot of time in the Championship, and that again is not anywhere near international rugby. It's a tough league and it's attritional, and there's some fantastic players in it, but it's a big step to international rugby.
What was the reaction amongst guys like yourselves or the professional game when Sarries got beat by Cornish Pirates? Is that a laugh and a joke and a get it right up here, or was there some sympathy because you wouldn't want it to be you? How does that go?
Sorry.
Go.
You did a year in the Championship recently with Newcastle. Like I did a year with it in Bristol, and as Toby's touched on there's some bloody good players in that Championship. And when I was with Bristol, we had some star-studded guys playing there. We nearly got turned over by Cornish Pirates down there. They have a fantastically strong pack. Every team in the Championship scrums and mauls really well, and we found ourselves in a really tight game probably 5 or 6 times in that season, and we lost. We were beaten by Jersey, and we should have been beaten by Ealing when we played them at home. We could have been beaten by them when we played away, and there's probably another 3 or 4 games that are tight. Sarries have ended up in a game, and they probably didn't prepare. Oh, that was a nasty one. That's going to be a red card. That looked like a shoulder to the head, I think.
Bundy Aki on Vunipola. Vunipola looked like he was falling, though.
That looks terrible.
Get him off.
He looked like he was falling into it.
10 bonus points for England and get him off.
That's not good to see. A big man like that down in a heap. But yeah, like that's I was happy to see it, because I'm a purist. Seeing Cornwall is going to be the biggest win of their rugby careers. That's a red card. Can't do that. Can't travel with your shoulder at that height. You've got to dip. That's red card. Has to be. You cannot do that anymore. And for me, with these players, or you hear supporters complaining about these red cards, until players start adhering to the rules, that's when we're going to see the change. We've got to keep seeing the red cards being dished out, and then we're going to see better coaching. Nasty. Players are going to adapt. And for me, Toby, I don't know what you think, but I think we're going to start seeing players now in certain situations that they're just going to realize, I'm in a bad position here. I'm going to have to pull out of this tackle. Or try and drag the guy down.
Exactly, either bail out or just try and create a tackle without being, shoulder to head or shoulder to chest. Absolutely, trying to manipulate a tackle.
And it could actually start to open up the game a bit. We could start seeing more offloading, more line breaks. So in theory, how they're refereeing these tackles and these collisions could actually be really good for creating a bit more space and obviously having a safer game, which is what we're all after.
Ian, you're a magnificent politician. I love that.
It's easy for me to.
So I went and watched,
easy for me to say red card when we're 26-6 up.
So I went and watched England under 20s today play against our sort of second team, our A team at Newcastle. A few of the boys went down and stuff while I watched it with my son, and And I reckon I saw more offloads in that game than I've seen all year because they're adhering to the laws. The tackles are a bit more passive, and actually people get their arms free, and actually these kids coming from school where tackles were a bit more passive and they could dominate collision are so willing to offload. It was amazing. It was brilliant to watch it. It was actually really good. Sort of it opened your eyes up to potentially what we should be doing in the Premiership, actually getting the ball free. Oh, that's a shot, mind though. He's whacked him there. Oh.
Tough.
So the best thing about that, so Bruce, the best thing about the Championship thing about Cornish Pirates winning is now, and I'm not saying they should do this, but if they did want to do this, it's an option for them, would be a gentleman's agreement between every single club to let Cornish Pirates win with a bonus point every single game, and also Ealing to win with... And I'm not saying that is a conspiracy theory doing the rounds, but it's massively doing the rounds. And so therefore, it's a top two playoff. So it becomes Cornish Pirates against... go on, boys.
Try time.
Here we go.
Look, it's not done yet. He needs to kick this. He needs to kick this. Keep it to 13 points. 13 points to 15 points. Who's going to kick this?
Daly.
Yeah, Daly.
Unless Robson's come on and said, "Listen, lads, this is all me. This is all me."
Yeah, Daly's not like, I know he's a long range specialist, but he's not one to kick conversions, which is well, it is a different kick, kicking on tight angles as opposed to just getting foot on it.
I think I would have loved to have been. I'd have loved to have been a long range kicker. No pressure, just whack it and see if it goes over. We're in the dream, but it's a very different. It's a different mindset when you're a proper kicker. Yeah.
Ian, what about
smashes it wide.
Ian, what about Stockdale there? Did he bite in? Should he have stayed on Youngs?
Yeah, I think Rob Herring doesn't need to commit to that maul as well. Look, Jacob's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place there. He's got two guys coming down his channel. He's gone for the intercept and hasn't come up with it. Ideally, he needs Rob Herring to stay out of that maul. He'll pick up Jamie George, and then Jacob can stay out on the 9. He's tried to save it with an intercept that hasn't worked out, but they're probably going to do him anyway. Again, that's one of those ones. It kind of looks worse than it is. If he turns in and smashes Jamie George, he's probably not going to get criticised like he will now by the Irish public. They'll say, "Oh, he's not a good defender," but the reality is there's other things going on around him that have caused him to make that decision.
Yeah, 100%. As a winger on the blind side there, you're massively vulnerable if you're prop or defending. Last defender jumps his head in, so it's a good spot by Ben Youngs, and that's where Jamie George is probably a Lions hooker in the sense that his skill set's great.
Ireland work the short side brilliantly, don't they?
Yeah. Just it creates great width in the pitch. If teams have to keep marking up the short side because they know it's threatening, it opens up the other side of the pitch. It's been a big strength of ours this Six Nations.
The quality of tackle and the sort of collision seem to have got faster again. It's lifted again.
It's been a great game.
It's been really good to watch.
Farrell's obviously not coming back on. He's not on, is he? No.
Are we still on Johnny Sexton for man of the match if Ireland win?
Keith Earls for a hat-trick, maybe?
Keith Earls for a hat-trick. Here we go.
That was sloppy from Daly. He just got stuck underneath it, didn't he?
Oh, that's poor. Yeah.
I reckon they got 3 points out of them here.
Yeah, that kills the game.
Yeah. 16, 15, 18. Yeah.
You need a big turnover here from me.
Yeah. Not rolling away. It was a high tackle before that anyway. Yeah.
No.
I'll tell you what, I think Ireland are going to go on and win this game, even with the red card. But 26-6 with 15, 20 minutes to go. Let's say Ireland go and score 2 more tries. It finishes 40-6. Do you think they're looking at changing coaches then? Or, what's the confidence like?
No, I think England are certainly the people in power have, it's a bit like a political party, but they've become very sort of aligned to Eddie Jones and the way he's thinking and stuff. And I think it would take a large, big fall from grace for England to shift Eddie Jones now, or certainly in the next sort of 12 months. He seems to sort of have that Trumpism effect over the Republican Party.
Oh, you heard it here first. That is magnificent.
I'm sorry.
Eddie Jones has just been likened to Donald Trump. I absolutely love that. Right,
brilliant.
While we've got this penalty lining up, I think we've got another couple of questions to try and get in here.
Sorry, gents. Apparently, a bluebird's just flown to the window and killed itself. But apart from that, we're all right. So, sorry. Are we on?
Is he in it? Was that an English fan as well?
Yes.
The bird was an English fan. Had enough. The bird has had it. The bird has had it. Yeah, we've got some questions. While Johnny does this, would either of you fancy? Oh, there's a brilliant one. Would either of you fancy a crack in America?
Tell you what, I wouldn't mind joining a few of those Aussie boys in the guillotines. That looks like some crack. Adam Ashley Cooper, Drew Mitchell, Corbacero was the scrum coach.
I taught Glenn Bryce. Glenn Bryce, that was at Glasgow Warriors. I taught him at school. He's from a state school up the road here, and he's now pinching himself. He's in LA playing professional rugby, and every selfie has got Gitto or Adam Ashley Cooper in it. He is absolutely loving life.
You know, a team means business when their team emblem's a bloody martini glass. That's when it's like, right, we're taking this seriously.
So is this you put out there?
Get involved with that.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to go to Vegas whenever Chris Robshaw is. I want.
Yeah.
Chris
did the first one of these. And he just landed, and they were in quarantine. But he couldn't find a stream. So Sean, that you've met, that's pushing the buttons from Fill Your Boots, he had the game playing on his phone through Facebook Messenger so that Chris could see the game while he commented on it. So he was about 3 weeks behind on the action by the time it had been beamed in outer space 12 times to get to him.
Again, they're England go forward ball.
This is terrible to watch.
That's dreadful play. Bit of go forward ball, and then a brutal pass, poor knock on, compound the error, give a penalty away. It's going to be a hell of a long 10 minutes for England now. Toby, are you looking forward to playing with Mike Brown next season?
Yeah, I like Brown. He's a good man. He's a hell of a competitor. Every training session is a battle with him in the nicest sense of the word. Like, he likes to fight. He likes to. It's great to have him up here. I think we've got a lot of young boys, especially in our back three. So you've got sort of Adam Radwan, for instance, and Ben Stevenson, and their young boys learn their trade. To have him around will be massive in terms of the value he can add. He will definitely have a fight with someone. That's going to happen, but I can live with that. It'll be me. But there we go.
He's arguably playing the best stuff of his career. He'd nearly be thinking he should have been getting a call up for this game. He's been himself and a few others, even like Danny Kerr's refound form. The Quins, we're actually playing them now in a couple of weeks in the Challenge Cup, and they're one of the form sides in the Premiership at the moment. They're flying it.
Yeah, look, they came up to us. And they were almost a shadow of themselves. We beat them in the last minute, but before that, and you were sort of watching their. Oh man,
that's a yellow card. That's as cynical as it gets.
But why? Right? Why is he doing that? Is that because we need to just kill this and we'll take the penalty? Is that just him going rogue? Is it just bloody stupid? Why is he doing that?
I need to watch it again, but I think he thinks he's not changed his bind, so therefore he's legal. So let's watch this again.
He's swimming up.
So he swum through, and then he swum through again. So he's changed his bind 4 times, and now he thinks it's technically legal. But because he's changed his bind, it's just daft, and it's desperation. I think you look at England, and this whole tournament, they've been desperate to find form somehow, and they just can't, no matter how hard they try.
Ian, did you want them to go for the corner there? Would you want them to go for the corner here?
A small bit of me did all right. Yeah, yeah.
No,
It's
I'd
like
say-
what we said. It's like what we said,
Yeah.
Toby. When a team is 26-6 up, they become a better. They're 25% better defensively. When you're 26-6 down, you become 25% worse because you're scrambling. You're thinking we've got to turn the ball over now. You become desperate. Guys jump out of the line. Guys go offside at maul time. You're trying to look for something that isn't there a lot of the time, and I think that's what we've seen with England, especially in the second half. They've been chasing too hard and
And I think
forcing
England
things.
a bit I agree with Ian. I think this game almost epitomises England's whole Six Nations in the sense they've been chasing everything. They've almost been trying to sort of find form somehow by just almost like doing something out of character, and it's been really poor. And I think I'd have loved Ireland to go to the quarter there. I'm surprised he didn't go to the quarter. To win 36-11 and chase a bonus point and all that sort of stuff. I'm surprised they've just gone for this season.
The red cards had no, other than obviously the kick to the corner and score, but that's not a centre that's missing. That's just how it goes. It's been completely irrelevant so far.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look, England are like with, as you can see there, the two guys on the bench, Ford and Farrell off. Two centres that are inexperienced on. Their goose is cooked at around 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Ireland are even getting their kickoff right now, Ian.
Yeah.
Do you agree that Ireland have done their homework on how to beat England as Scotland did?
Yeah, I would. I think we've mixed up our game much better today. You saw that try in the first half. That's probably won the game for us. We've gone, I think, 16, 17 phases. We've mixed up between going to the air. It's not like that was the only part of our game plan today. We mixed up, the moving the point of contact, the interplay between the backs and the forwards, getting 2-3 passes in, testing the wider defenders. But then when you get a bit of go forward ball, going to our power game, and that try epitomised it for me. And
yeah.
Look, Ireland, reality is, so Ireland have been, we've definitely got the edge in the scrum. Our line-out's gone well. We've probably won the aerial battle. There was a great one there that in the lead up to that try in the first half that he's got up above, I think it was Elliot Daly. So look, we have definitely won large facets of the game.
Toby, there's a lot of this chat for lots of teams about no plan B. Is that why Ireland and Scotland can have a crack? Have England just got one way of doing it?
Sorry, I just watched that lineup. So England, historically, especially under Jones, they've been a side that wants to dominate you physically and through that then get ahead of you. And when they're ahead of the game, physicality and the dominance they have in certain areas of the game, they make you chase the game. They make you make errors because you have to force it X, Y, and Z. And whenever England have tried to force it, like any team, but whenever they've tried to force it, England then struggle to open up the game. So
I think even
that's probably been the biggest thing. Is my wireless dropped.
Yeah, we heard your explanation. Then you say that's the biggest thing, so we've completely missed what the biggest thing is.
Sounded big there.
I can't remember. I was waffling. I was getting annoyed and waffling. That's what I was doing. I was getting irate. I'm just watching this. Sorry. The biggest thing is just their need and desire to have those big guys and this sort of stuff here, where they're just going to use their physicality to win that, and you get ahead of the game, and they have to chase it. They're so vulnerable because being physical and dominating a side takes time, in the sense that this is going to take 4, 5, 6 minutes out of the ball.
Ireland going to lose a player to a yellow card here.
Try. Well done. Good try. Good try and a yellow card. Yeah, look, kick it quickly. What are they then to? 11, 17, 18.
18.
2 more tries. You
Not
never know.
close.
You never know. It's 15 against 13. You could score again. Oh, sorry, it's not a try. It's a penalty.
Maybe.
No, penalty. I think he knocked it on as he dived for it. Conor Murray in the bin.
Every second counts. Only, tough now, 5 backs.
So how good's that? Conor Murray's played 77 minutes.
He played well. Played really well.
Not great for Gibson Park, though, who can't get on. Next up is the play. See, this just takes time.
Do you think replacing Ford?
Do you think replacing Ford with Marcus Smith would add a new needed energy to the team? From Toby Aitchison. Is Marcus Smith going to have to wait for another cycle? Is that how this works?
I don't think he needs to wait for a cycle, and Ian, you'll know this as well, but I don't think he needs to wait for a cycle. I think he maybe just needs to... I think this Argentinian tour now, for, in all likelihood, if he doesn't go on the Lions trip, ends up going or being rested potentially, and then you can expose the likes of Smith and Simmons potentially to rugby. So I think, or to international rugby. So I think that's potentially where he gets his shot. And if he lights up that trip, in inverted commas, if it ever happens, then actually he's got a big shot. So I don't think he has to wait for the next cycle. I just think he needs just to bide his time a little bit. And the problem you've got is, like all things, is Ford's been playing really well for 8 years, and Marcus Smith's been playing really well for maybe 1.5. Been a very good player, but that time adds weight to the value of his selection. So that's probably where, Ford's ahead of him at the moment, is he's got a huge amount of credit in the bank. But at the same time, Marcus Smith keeps putting his hand up. He's all right.
Here, just on this one here, Toby, right? Like, there's 3 minutes left, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but England could, in theory, still score 3 tries in 3 minutes. They score off this pick and jam. They receive the kickoff, they score again. They receive the kickoff, they score again. It's not unthinkable. 15 against 13. It is not unthinkable. They score right now, kick the goal. They then have effectively just under 2.5 minutes to score the next one. And then they're getting another kickoff, and then they've obviously got that passage of play where they've got to score again. Why in God's name would you go for a scrum? And they've already wasted 45 seconds. Now, I don't know. I presume Tig's playing silly buggers there with that cramp. He made it look very dramatic. But that's 40.
That's shot.
It's now 48 seconds. It's now 50 seconds. Like, come on, just tap it and go. You need to score right now.
Yeah,
but that goes back to that free kick one earlier on.
Yeah.
Why did they just go?
The only hope you've got here is they walk them over the try line. So that's the only hope here, is you go, right, this is a 7-man scrum that I don't have, and we literally just walk. Because you think maybe, let's say, a try takes 5 pick and goes, 4 pick and goes. So unless they walk them over the try line now, which they're not doing, they've got advantage. There's no good.
No good space. There you
Go.
But he scored it on the touchline.
He scored it.
At least there's some respectability put on the score. Like, that's, when you're talking about holding on to a coach and changing coach, and if you're looking at 40-6, or if this finishes, let's say 32.
Get over. Here we go. It's on. The comeback's on. Here goes. Referee, stop the clock. You have to stop the clock. It's dead time. They're walking.
Who did that kick there? It was a good kick. It was a drop kick.
I don't know. Well, I think it was a drop kick, yeah.
That's a great pass.
Yeah, nice ball.
Good finish as well.
I think it was Daly. I think Daly whacks it. Good ball.
Oh, lefty drop kick. Beauty.
You gotta love that.
That's all class. Fair play to him.
You gotta love that.
That's nice.
Yeah, a minute. So I wonder will they score again? They probably should.
They could. They're not. It's not going to make a difference.
What do you reckon? Robbie Henshaw got man of the match. Happy with that?
Robbie had a great game. He was the class centre on the pitch, class back on the pitch.
That's what I said, didn't I? Did we not say that at half time? I think we said Robbie Henshaw. I'm pretty sure.
the English centres have been almost non-existent. We've hardly heard anything. Yeah. There's hardly been a break.
Yeah, no, Farrell. Farrell's not there to line break, but he's there to facilitate and create space. And Lawrence has been bottled up. Yeah, it's a good shout. I mean, it's compared to Henshaw, who's had a great game. Yeah, it's been difficult to watch really. And Budiak, obviously, apart from the red card, was pretty busy. So it's it's always nice to watch the team wind down the game.
Yeah, I hate this. If you're talking about things you would change, this
Yeah.
just fall over, no contest for the ball. This does my nut.
Yeah, it's tough to watch.
What a win.
Just to let you know, it's even more frustrating to play in because you can't get the ball back. It does your head in. You just start kicking people.
Big result for CJ Stander. Ian, what's he going through at the moment? Is that relief, joy, sadness, the whole thing?
I'd say relief and satisfaction. He's put it all out there. I'm sure it was a stressful week for him. He would have been concerned about how it was going to be received. I think generally it was received incredibly well. He got great support from both players, supporters, coaches. And look, that's a big one for him. And it was a big win for Ireland. We could potentially get up to. Could we get second now? We might be able to. Whereas if we lost that, we'd be looking at maybe fifth. So it suddenly turns into a Six Nations that got away. We could have beaten Wales. We could have beaten France. And in theory, Ireland could have done a Grand Slam now. But you lose today, and suddenly you're getting the glorified wooden spoon without Italy. So look, that's huge for Ireland today, and for the playing group and the coaching group going forward.
Toby, pretty sad with that whole thing.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading the table. I'm just reading the table. Yeah, I mean, what they got? Was that 4 points? So they're on 15. As you Scotland in that game against France, Ireland potentially are second, and then England are, World Cup finalists and what do you call them? Whatever it was, like the Amazon Nations Cup, whatever it was, are like a second bottom, which is just mad,
Yeah.
I think the Amazon Nations is a different competition altogether.
What's that? Is that netball? What's that? Volleyball, netball? What's that? Am I watching that late at night? Is that what I'm doing?
Oh god,
we're bringing Brazil into this competition now. Forget the South African franchises. We're bringing in Brazil.
Whatever it was called, it was drivel. But anyway, England won it. And you look at that league, you just think, well, how has that happened so quickly? It's it's incredible. But there we go. Has
it been a good tournament because it's been so ridiculous? Do you think is it nice when it's like that? I mean, Wales. Somebody had said a rubbish thing in the media that this will be the worst team to ever win a Grand Slam.
No.
I can't remember what expert it was that had said it because it just infuriated me when I read it. But has that just made the tournament even more interesting?
In what sense? That like the Welsh team?
Well, just the whole thing. I mean, Scotland beat England first up, which nobody thought was going to happen. Hasn't happened for 38 years. Wales look like they were going to sack their coach, and now they could win the Grand Slam. France had the best player in the world, and then they've lost games. Italy are the consistent thing in all of this because they've been bloody awful,
so.
And it's really been a case of how quickly can you get to a bonus point against Italy. Mm-hmm. But other than that, every other game has been a bitch to call. I mean, how do you predict? Do you think that's made it better?
Definitely, yeah. A good competition. That's what it's all about. That's why the Premiership as a product is the Premiership rugby is fantastic because you don't know who's going to win. Trying to predict bottom six, top six for a season is really difficult. And that's what it needs. If England are doing a Grand Slam every year, if France are doing a Grand Slam every year, people lose interest in it. Look at that table there. You've got everyone beating everyone. That's exactly what you want. And for the Six Nations going forward, it's brilliant. But look, I think you've touched on it there with Italy. That's a conversation that has to be had. Should Argentina come into it? Should South Africa come into it? I don't know what has to be done. Should Italy drop out of the competition because they certainly have to find some better form.
Yeah. No, agree, gentlemen. It's been absolutely unreal. I've absolutely loved this. I think we've saved the best for last. This has been an absolute joy. We've got a couple of announcements to make. The winner of the man of the match. So the person who called it for Robbie Henshaw, the winner is Phil Jones. So congratulations, Phil. There's a bottle of Glen Turret on its way to you. And our setup winner is James from Royston. Good man, James. He's got an English rose on there. He's got his Falcons bonnet on, Toby, and he's got his setup all hooked up. So congratulations, James. You get yourself a Rugby Bash hamper. So enjoy it. Well done, Phil. Well done, James. Thank you very much. Thank you, Snackfully. Thank you to Glen Turret. But most of all, thank you to these two magnificent men. Ian, absolute joy. Thank you very much. All the very best. I'm looking forward to seeing you when Ulster come across to Edinburgh. I'm going to come and bug you and say, remember me. Toby, you're not too far away. I'm coming down the road. I'm going to come and chap your door. So thank you very much, gentlemen. An absolute joy. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Cheers. Thanks a million. Cheers, Toby. That was great.
Cheers, guys. Good to see you, mate. Take care.
Cheers.
Well.
How good are those two? I think that's the quietest I've ever been. So thank you very much to both Ian and Toby for an absolute joy. Thank you to big handsome Sean from Fill Your Boots. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook and Instagram, follow Fill Your Boots. Big Sean feelings backstage, pressing the buttons and making things happen. He's been the producer of every single one of the shows and he's done a bloody good job and we love him to bits. Thank you to Snackfully and Glen Turret for their support. Thank you to Richie at those rugby tours, making things happen. Thank you to Tim Visser for all his help and support putting these things together. Although we've all ripped into him, we love him really. He is our crazy favourite Dutchman and he is unique, I think is the polite way to put it. This has been Rugby Bash Legends in your living room. Stay tuned because there's hopefully going to be more in the pipeline. My name is Bruce Aitchison. I've been your host from Happiness is Egg-Shaped and I have absolutely loved it. Enjoy Game 3 on Super Saturday and look forward to Scotland against France, and hopefully I'm going to see you in a touchline or a clubhouse somewhere soon for a beer in person. Fingers crossed, get your jab and let's get back to rugby because God, this stuff on the screen is just not the same. All the very best. Happiness is egg-shaped.